Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the meeting of the Lowell City Council to order. Please join me in the council prayer. Dear God, today as the session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. Please join me now in honoring America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good evening. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Patrick.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Dakota.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilman Mendonça.
Here.
Councilor Mercier.
Here.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Murphy.
Here.
9 present.
The chair recognizes Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to offer a moment of silence in Darkened Chamber for Adrian Luz, a beloved husband, father, and grandfather. Adrian recently celebrated his 40th wedding anniversary with his cherished wife, Betty Luz. Born in the Swede Village section of the city, he was the eldest son and graduated from Lowell High School in 1944 and immediately entered the United States Navy, honorably serving in World War II. After completing his service to his country, Adrian returned to Lowell, working at the family business Luz Brothers Monument, where he successfully directed the firm for 40 years. In 1987, he founded Luz Granite Corporation, where he worked alongside his son until his final weeks. He was very active in many local organizations and will be remembered for his unselfish compassion, generosity, and love. Besides his wife, Betty, he is survived by his 2 children, a daughter, Kathleen, and his son, Adrian Chip Luz, and 5 grandchildren. He will be truly missed. I have one for Trudy Miller as well. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in Darkened Chamber for a very dear friend, Gertrude Trudy Miller, loving wife of Robert Miller, with whom she would have celebrated their 47th wedding anniversary on September 25th. Born in Lowell, Trudy was a longtime resident of the Centerville section of the city and was extremely active with the East End Club Ladies Auxiliary. She had served as president of that club for many, many years and was instrumental in helping run the Christmas program. She also volunteered at Saints Memorial Cancer Center, and at the East End Club, she sponsored blood drives. She was also a member of the Dompolsky Club and the Lowell Senior Citizen Club. In addition to her husband, Robert, she leaves behind 2 sons, Brian and Mark, a sister, Rosemary Carr, who died on the day of her funeral, and 2 grandchildren. Trudy was the sister of Richard Barry Jr., a member of the Gentlemen Songsters, who died just a couple of weeks ago. She will be truly missed, and to the family we send our condolences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Mercier. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also would like a moment of silence with Darkened Chambers for Gloria T. Barrows, a loving wife, mother, grandmother, mother of Mike Barrows, our City Hall custodian. May she rest in peace.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. May we all rise now in a moment of silence in Darkened Chambers. May they rest in peace. Thank you. First order of business is we have a proclamation this evening, and it's actually to present Diana Knoll with a proclamation declaring September 24th as National Recovery Day. And if Donna could come to the podium. I don't know if Councilor Mercier wants to say something before I read the proclamation. I know that they're here this evening at your
Well, first off, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing Diane to come forward to talk about this very important issue. and to also promote the fact that in September 24th, they will have Lowell Recovery Day. This happens to be Lowell Recovery Month, and she does a tremendous job down here on Merrimack Street to the Lowell House. So I know firsthand of her dedication. She was always like second in command, but now she is in command, so it's great to see her here, and she would explain that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Mercy. Why don't I read the proclamation, Donna, and then you can give us a presentation. City of Lowell, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, by His Honor James L. Milanazzo, Mayor, a proclamation. Whereas behavioral health is an essential part of health and one's overall wellness and prevention works, treatment is effective, and people can and do recover from substance abuse and mental disorders. And whereas National Recovery Day and Lowell House Incorporated celebrate Voices for Recovery together for a common purpose to help more people achieve long-term recovery and learn how recovery positively benefits the nation's overall well-being. And whereas Lowell House Incorporated is dedicated to repairing lives impacted by addiction. Now therefore, I, James L. Milanazzo, Mayor of the City of Lowell, along with my colleagues here assembled this evening, do hereby proclaim Saturday, September 4th, 2011 as National Recovery Day and urge all citizens to join in the celebration in recognizing Lowell House attention and commitment to the betterment of the community at its citizens they serve. Given this 13th day of September 2011 by James L. Milanazzo, the Mayor of the City of Lowell. It's my pleasure to present this to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, what I would like to do is have my staff, Robin Brown and Jackie Hayes, speak about the day. Also, I'd like to introduce our board president, Mr. John Finnegan. He's our new president, too. So now the staff have really embraced this day. This is the first time that Lowell House has actually taken on an event to celebrate National Recovery Month. And I want to let the staff who are doing the work talk about it.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Robin Brown, and I'm a case manager, and I work at Lowell House, Inc. And this is the first year that Lowell House, Inc. is supporting National Recovery Month, which is September 24th, to talk about the voices of recovery. There'll be tables set up with the Lowell Health Department. There'll be a few tables from the Career Center, and this is all to promote recovery, bettering the lives for the individuals in Lowell, where they can get services to help and support them to sustain their mental health disorders and also their recovery disorders. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm Jackie Hayes. I'm a supportive housing case manager at Lowell House, and we are very excited about this day. There will be food. It's no cost to anybody. There will be food. We'll have a DJ. There'll be information about our services along with many others. We have about 6 tables now. Always looking for more, and it's going to be at the Shed Park Pavilion on the 24th from 1 to 5. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. Thanks.
Thank you, Jackie.
And finally, I just want to say one of our initiatives is that we're working really closely with the Lowell Health Department on opiate overdose. It's been a real pleasure to work with the Health Department, and the ladies, they were actually very committed to the cause, and so they're going to be joining us too.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diana, very much. Thank you so much. Moving on with the agenda, the next item, the minutes of the August 23rd meeting for acceptance. Motion by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Dakota. Any questions, comments? All those in favor of accepting the minutes and place on file signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Moving right into unfinished business. The first item is to vote, actually to continue the public hearing regarding the vote to accept sections 21, 22, 23 as provided in section 21A of the Mass General Laws, chapter 32B as amended, and but continuing the public hearing that began on August 23rd, 2011. So to continue the public hearing, I would entertain a motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Dakota, that we continue the public hearing. Would the clerk please call the roll to reopen, continue the public hearing?
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Skip me.
Thank you. At this
Councilor Brightside?
Yes.
At this point, the chair would like to continue the public hearing regarding the vote to accept sections 21, 22, and 23 as provided in section 21A of Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, as amended. The chair will open the public hearing again for all those wishing to speak in favor. For those wishing to speak in favor, for those wishing to speak in favor, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition, please come to the podium, state your name and address. And just for a clarification, and decorum, we do have a 5-minute rule here. And I also want to mention again that the council, according to a council rule, will just be hearing the comments this evening. The vote will take place 2 weeks from this evening. Only the public hearing is happening this evening. The vote will take place at our next regularly scheduled council meeting. Again, welcome. Thank you.
Good evening once again. Mayor Milanazzo, City Manager Lynch, members of the City Council. My name is George Ryan. I reside at 27 Robert Bigelow Street in Chelmsford. I'm a retired Lowell police officer. I worked 33 years for the City of Lowell, and I've been retired for over 14 and a half years. I'm here once again representing the Greater Lowell Retired Police Officers Association. Now, 3 weeks ago, I spoke before the council, so I will not repeat everything that I said, but I am going to go over a few highlights of my speech. Once again, I am voicing opposition to accepting the local option on our health care plans, namely Mass General Laws 32B, Sections 21 through 23. I said at that time there shouldn't be a rush to judgment, as all the rules and regulations haven't been finalized, and you have until December to vote on this bill. Now, I understand some emergency regulations have come down since that time. Is that right? I also said that this bill calls for expedited collective bargaining, and if an agreement isn't worked out in 30 days, it could go before a 3-person panel consisting of 1 labor person, 1 management person, and a 3rd so-called neutral party. Now, if the manager shows as little as a 5% savings by shifting the cost onto current workers and retirees, he will always win a 2-to-1 vote in his favor. This is not a level playing field. I also mentioned that if the city manager ever puts us in the state's insurance, the GIC, we could be paying as much as 11 times the cost of our mail-order prescription drugs. I gave the scenario of a couple paying $800 a year, and when they went into the GIC plan, their prescription drug costs extrapolated to $8,800. Now, just this past spring, the Retired State, County, and Municipal Employees Association did a statewide survey, and 24%, that's nearly 1 in 4, retirees were paying a minimum of $100 a month. That's a minimum of $1,200 a year. Now, if you times that by 11, that comes out to $13,200. Retirees will never willingly accept this budget-busting plan, and will fight against it like hell. I also mentioned that in the past 18 months, retirees have come under constant attack on their health care plans by at least 2 separate bills on Beacon Hill, our local city council's plan design bill, and just this past April, when almost everyone lost their master medical health insurance. Now we have this local option plan popping up again. When is this assault going to end? It reminds me of the game Whack-A-Mole. I also mentioned that the council should pay special attention to page 13, paragraph 3 of your 14-page draft bill. This talks about possibly mitigating the impact on retirees, low-income subscribers, and high out-of-pocket costs. And I finished up with a request to putting a permanent pay freeze on health care premiums for retirees over the age of 85. Give them some stability and less anxiety in their twilight years. Now for something new. Approximately 47 years ago, I was a patrolman, and later on as vice president of the Superior Officer Union, I was involved in many union collective bargaining sessions with several different city managers. And a few years later, towards the end of my career, when I made deputy police chief, I sat on the other side of the table, on management side. During these decades, we gave up several so-called perks to protect and preserve our health care plans. Some of the things that I remember giving up was working for comp time instead of getting overtime, taking days off instead of receiving time and a half, giving up shift differentials, giving up hazardous duty pay, giving up longevity, capping our sick leave buybacks, going without a pay increase, deferring comp time payments until the city was in a better financial health, and giving up the so-called super holiday pay. I'm sure I left out several other things, but these are the things that come to mind. The bottom line here is that when all these bargaining sessions ended in a new contract, no matter what side of the table I was on, it was always a win-win situation for the city and its employees. It was true give and take bargaining. It was the classic example of two parties negotiating in good faith. This is what true collective bargaining is all about. Please don't cripple collective bargaining with this local option plan, which is nothing but a thinly disguised version of plan design. Instead of give and take, management will always take and take and take. Now, my friend Keith Rudy probably hit the nail on the head last winter at a retirees meeting when he said, "We didn't steal any benefits, we earned them." And Keith, my friend, you are absolutely right, we did earn them. Now, if you can give us retirees the following three things, we won't be back here again. Number one, give us some respect, like the button says. Give us some stability and give us some affordability. These three things are very doable and they're very reasonable. Just park the bandwagon, get rid of the rubber stamps, and we can get back to negotiating in good faith and shaking hands once again. My final remarks, I'd like to publicly thank two people who have been at the vanguard of trying to protect and preserve our retiree benefits during these past tumultuous months. Their information and support is greatly appreciated. They are Education Issues Chairperson and Secretary for the United Teachers of Lowell Retirees, retired school teacher Mickey Dumont, and Teachers Union President Paul Georges. I salute you both for an outstanding job. That's all I have to say. Thank you for letting me speak again. And Paul, I hope you get the contract you deserve. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Hi, Bob.
members of the council, City Manager Lynch. My name is Lieutenant Robert Page, Lowell Fire Department, retired. I live at 26 Fremont Street, Lowell. I'm here representing myself. I'm a homeowner, I'm a taxpayer, and I'm a union man. I've always been a union man. I served on the contract negotiating committee several times. When we sat down, the contract was put on the table. Every item was subject to negotiation. The first article was always health insurance, to the best of my recollection. That's how important the subject was then, and that's how important the subject is now. Collective bargaining has worked for over 50 years. Don't change it now, it's not broken. The health issue is not a Lowell problem, it's a national problem, and that is where it has to be fixed. Excuse me. My understanding of this motion is that at the very least, it will increase co-payments, among other things. Many of these retirees are now living at the poverty level, and any added cost would be devastating to them, the most vulnerable among us. We are many here tonight, but there are only 9 votes. Our mission tonight is to make you fully aware of the consequences of your vote. I will not insult your intelligence by repeating all the details, You've listened to them over the last year. You know the game. You know what's going on. However you vote, we appreciate your service to our city. I shall not be present for the vote because I believe it is what it is, and I rely on you to do the right thing. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Dick Snetsky. I live at 43 Hank Street in Lowell. I am speaking tonight to address my concerns about your pending actions regarding retirees' health plans and the City's Council's approach to the City Manager's proposals in general. I am a near lifelong resident and taxpayer of the City of Lowell and the husband of a retired Lowell teacher who is also a lifelong resident and taxpayer. As such, I have serious concern about your pending vote, which would allow the city manager to control the design of the city health plans, particularly as it affects retirees. Such action would undermine years of good faith bargaining for health benefits, which were expected to carry into retirement, a time in which health insurance coverage and costs are of particular significance. Such action would show a lack of regard for rights and concerns of retirees who are also the very taxpayers you are elected to represent. Such action would show a lack of regard for commitments made by the city to these retirees in decades of negotiations during their service to the city. In addition, I am concerned by the appearance that the City Council has largely become a rubber stamp for the city manager's agendas. While the manager has accomplished many positive things in his tenure which deserve the council's support, it often seems as if much of the council has lost sight of the fact that the manager works for them and that you work for the voters and taxpayers of the city. Your pending vote on the future of the health insurance plans is one of the times you should remember that mission and responsibility. Please think long and hard about the effects of your pending vote on these insurance plans for the city and its retirees. Your vote on these health insurance plans, and in particular the options for retirees, will demonstrate if you do, in fact, remember your mission and who you represent, the voters, taxpayers, including the retirees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors, Mr. Manager, fellow retirees, employees, and citizens. My name's Andrew LaCourse. I live in Hudson, New Hampshire now, but I was born in Lowell and lived here till 4.5 years ago. I'm coming tonight to ask you not to accept these laws. I did notice, and no one else mentioned it, but I didn't see anybody get up to speak in favor of them. So I don't know who's in favor of this law. Is it brought in just by the manager? Is he the only one? I don't think there's a person in this room tonight that's not concerned about controlling the cost of health care on either side of this aisle. But the fact of the matter is this bill and what you're bringing in front of the council tonight, which I still don't think we have the full information on, it has nothing to do with controlling the cost of health care. Nothing. So don't be fooled by this. This is about shifting the cost from one group to another. We work... About a year ago, the same thing happened in the middle of the summer, and it was even later at night than last week. It was real late. There was no special meetings to break it up or anything else, but it's kind of like deja vu. I got involved in the Insurance Advisory Committee and a group that met with the retirees and the manager that the council directed him to do. We had some good meetings. The manager was clear on what he wanted. We still had no say as retirees. At the end of the day, he got what he wanted, and everybody went along, and everybody's pretty, they might moan and groan about it a little bit, but it got done. Master Medical was gone. But yet here we are again. We're doing the same thing. The manager had a plan for his own legislation. I asked the manager about that, I don't know, a couple months ago, if he had withdrawn. He thought he might, but I haven't heard nothing about that. This bill, what I did not like about last year's thing was the end of the summer rush when people aren't paying attention. And what's the rush on this thing? I just looked at some information that came from a training session that even we're all set till July on the current deal that we have now. Is that correct? I mean, I think it is. So even if you want to wait till July 1st, you don't have to even submit your proposal till March 1st. That's 6 months from now. What's the rush? Why don't they give the chance for unions and retirees to sit down and talk about it? It worked good last time. The education piece worked good, and you got some reduction in cost. 2 weeks ago, I have a hard time fathoming, and I did speak to a couple people on this side of the aisle about it, how a vote could be brought to you, men and women of the council, when the final rules weren't even published yet. If they were published, they weren't distributed. No one had them. How could you bring a vote of such a large ticket item to the board of directors of the city when no one knew what the rules are? As I understand, there may still be some changes coming with this process. I'm sorry, I lost my place here. Again, what's the rush? You got till March if you still want to do something by July. The retirees and the employees are not the enemy here. We're the people that made the city work and make the city work now. I don't understand why all of a sudden it's like we did this thing last year, we're back here again. And do any of you know what he's asking for? I don't. I know what the law says, but I don't know what that negotiation is going to lead to. Is it going to lead to an extra $1,000 per employee? An extra $2,000, $500? I have no idea. If any of you know, I'll be glad to listen to you after. And as a member of the IAC, I asked one of the city's consultants a question once, and I was really taken back by the answer. I asked, what is it that you do for the city? And it's someone we pay. And they said, not much. So I was really aggravated. So I looked at their website later that night. And that consultant is one of the highlights of what they do for health insurance is look at 100% of claims and look at them for mistakes and fraud. If you're talking about saving money on health insurance, not just shifting cost, fraud and mistakes are the place to look in the beginning. I'm going to give you one little example of a city similar to Lowell. The manager's heard it before, and everybody on the IAC has heard it. But there was some people doing bone marrow transplant registry swabs. It's a $65 to $100 test. The way health insurance works now, we go to the doctor. We don't know what the doctor charges our insurance company. We don't see the paperwork like we used to. 2 firefighters and I think a nurse in the city of Manchester, a similar city to Lowell, ended up for some reason getting the bill. They were being charged $4,300 for that test. The last thing I read in the paper, this is one test. The city of Manchester was getting $540,000 back from that company, and the Attorney General of both states are investigating that company. I think that would be a place to look. There may be other places to look, but I'm sitting here asking you now, don't throw us under the bus. Let's look at what better options we have, and again, what's the rush for this thing? I'm asking you to support the people that support you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name's Dennis Canny, live at 676 Beacon Street in Lowell. Just saying good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager, fellow retirees and employees. I really hadn't expected to speak tonight, but I'm a veteran of the wars. I helped negotiate Chapter 32B over 40 years ago, negotiated contracts for 20 years, and as if other speakers have said, we gave up many contract provisions in order to retain our health benefits. As we said, in lieu of other things, in lieu of money, in lieu of other contract provisions. And so 40 years later, I really didn't expect to be standing here today to have to address you people about this issue again. One of the reasons I came up to talk, if you'll indulge me, is because, as you know, I'm kind of a historian, and it's the 150th anniversary of the Civil War, and I've been reading Abraham Lincoln's speeches and his addresses. And I'm not going to recite the Gettysburg Address tonight, but, 7 years ago, but 4 decades ago, as we completed all these negotiations. The key word to me always was in good faith. And I've listened to some of the debates here, and some people have used the word in good faith, and I feel like they have used it rather loosely. So I really would hope that you would use that term to negotiate in good faith properly and with due respect. Again, to use Lincoln's words in his second inaugural address, with malice towards none and charity towards all. The villains aren't here, really. As the other speakers have said, the villains are the pharmaceutical companies, they're the health insurance companies and the executives who are making millions and millions of dollars. That's where our target should be. That's where our energies should be. So I would hope, again, the City Council and the people, we would come together in this type of attempt to focus our energies towards the real problem at a much higher level. So to finish off with another Abraham Lincoln quote, one of my favorite quotes from him, he always said is, you can fool some of the people all the time, you can fool all the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. Thank you very much.
My name is Jerry Dunn. Some of you here probably know me. All right, you're either going to like me or hate me. All right? Bernie, I'm looking you right in the eye, too, when I say this. Listen, we've been bargaining. A lot of you people out here, the councils, are not familiar with what's going on with the bargaining here. I'm not going to give any secrets away, Bernie. But we sit down and we negotiate, and we have been given back to the city, all these retirees and even the permit people that are here that are not retired yet. This affects them, too, whether they know it or not. What I'm trying to get the point across to you people is, okay, some of you are younger, you got mothers and fathers. The older you get, the more medical attention you need. It isn't the fault because you're getting older, your bodies is not pertain as young as it when you were younger. And we need this health insurance. I sat down with Elaine Donahue, and I sat down with Carrie, and they both are on that GIC plan, Bernie, whether you know it or not, and I talked to them, and they don't like it. And I certainly don't like it because there's a lock-in. A lot of you councils don't know you're locked in on that GIC. You can't get out for 3 years, whether you like it or not. And as a commission, I think it consists of something like 9 people on the board. They can come to this group and say, okay, now, your group took, you paid out more than when you put in. Now we're going to penalize you. And they can do this without a hearing, without a hearing. We don't have a say. What I'm trying to say to you people right now is, sure, I'm not going to say me because all these people here, school department, police, fire, custodians, all right? When I first started on the city, I had a choice. Work with GE or come to the city. I chose the city because I was born and raised here in Lowell. And I still respect Lowell. And I respect some of the councils here too. I just hope this vote that you're coming to take into consideration the health insurance for these people that are retired. They earned it and they worked for it. We're not looking for a special occasion. We just want fair negotiations. That's all we're looking for. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is James Malloy, 138 Parker Street. I'm a retired teacher from Lowell High School for 33 years. I'm also chair of the Insurance Advisory Committee here in the city, at least the current one. I am very concerned about the vote that's ahead of you, by the fact that you don't have the information to make a proper decision. I don't have the information. I've seen the draft regulations. I understand you have the emergency regulations. I haven't seen those. And the final regs aren't out yet. So I don't know how anybody can make a decision which is going to lock you in to that decision without having the full information in front of you, in which you can really go through and make an argument that you should join, you should adopt this, or you shouldn't adopt it. So I would hope that in 2 weeks, when this comes for a vote, you would at the very least table it, if not defeat it. Thank you.
Back again. Good evening, Mayor Milanazzo, councilors, Mr. Lynch. I'm Tom Flynn, 39 Waterford Street, retired from the school department. My wife and I have been residents of Lowell and taxpayers all the time. We were subject to paying taxes all our lives. 3 of our 6 children, 3rd generation of my family, have taught in Lowell. What message are you sending them? For years, health insurance was the great equalizer in America. It gave working people the opportunity to have access to quality health care at a reasonable cost without bankrupting a family because of illness. Today, the very poor are taken care of at taxpayer expense. The rich can afford to have doctors who accept only cash-paying customers. The rest of us need the very best health insurance we can get. At the federal level, there is a movement to cut Medicare. I hear people refer to this as an entitlement, implying it is undeserved. If you bought a ticket for front row, box seat, behind the dugout for a Red Sox-Yankees game, and you get to the ballpark, and the Royals were playing, and you were ushered to an obstructed view in the last row of a right field grandstand, would that be okay? Is that what you bargained for? Or would you feel entitled to what you paid for? Well, working people paid for Medicare, and you are darn right. They are entitled to it. They paid for it, earned it, and were promised it. Similarly, at the local level, retirees, while they were employees of the city of Lowell, whether it be as a policeman, fireman, teacher, or other city worker, bargained for health insurance benefits and gave up raises to get those benefits. Do we as retirees feel that we are entitled to the best possible health care plan? You are darn right we do, because we have earned it and we're promised it. I must tell you, this issue has caused me a lot of stress. And there are many retirees in a lot worse situation than I am. So I really don't want to hear that you were only kidding about our benefits when we retired. The adoption of the state plan for retirees will cause a 1,000% increase in Tier 3 medications, a 600% increase in Tier 2 medications, and a 300% increase in Tier 1 medications, which will cause a lot of tears for many retirees. Once the cost shifting begins, there is no limit as to where it will end. Once again, you are voting to give sole control over our health insurance to one person. No restrictions, no controls, no concerns, no conscience. We have no voice. You, the city council, are our voice, and you have been disappointingly and deafeningly silent. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good meeting, Mr. Manager, City Councilors. I guess I can keep it under 5 minutes. Everybody said everything I wanted to say. No, in all seriousness, I just looked at a couple of letters that, if I may, Mr. Mayor, read from what the manager sent all union reps and bargaining agents, like myself, I'm a business agent. First of all, my name is Keith Rudy, 28 Halley Road, Lowell, Mass. Retired worker for the city of Lowell, business agent now for the unions, ASME unions in Lowell. This letter was sent on November 10th, 2010 by the city manager to all union presidents and collective bargaining union representatives. And it said to join me on November 17th, 2010 at 10 a.m. in the mayor's reception room for further discussions concerning our health plans offering for active employees who are currently represented by your bargaining unit. And it stated that he had an earlier letter on September 9th sent to us. In the purpose of the letter, it just said now that each unit has had 8 weeks to consider the proposals the manager had put together, he would like to move forward and meet with all the interested union representatives to collectively discuss the various approaches that may be available. It was his hopes that by working collaboratively, we can explore mutually beneficial cost-saving opportunities and begin to discuss reasonable changes to help reduce our skyrocketing health insurance costs. We did that. We did that. The Voluntary Coalition Union entered an agreement with the manager. That letter was sent in November. Under these new laws, it gives you 30 days to come up to an agreement, or you go to a neutral party. That couldn't have been done in 30 days. We didn't come up with an agreement, I believe, until sometime in April. But we stood at the table. We kept on hammering away at both sides. We were fair to one another. So it took us a little time because there were so many groups involved. This is not one size fits all. You're talking about retirees, talking about people with catastrophic illnesses, and you're talking about active employees. So it's not one size fits all. In the estimated cost, when the savings was eventually reached between both sides, the estimated cost, using the manager's figures, this year, over $1 million. And each year, that is going to increase, the savings by the coalition eliminating Master Medical. We did that in good faith, at the table. No laws telling us we had to do this. We did this in good faith, because we felt it was in the best interest of not only the employees, but for the city going forward. Again, most of us are homeowners in Lowell. If you take a look at this there is no final draft right now. It is still being discussed. As a matter of fact, I just came back from a course in Pittsburgh on Friday, and we had some people there and even representatives there. It's still being discussed. They're still allowing unions and management to sit down and look at some of the concerns they have with these new laws. And they're still addressing some of these laws. So it isn't a final package at this time. Just so you know, the timetable that the city manager or the city or towns have to notify GIC. If the city was to enter on January 1st, 2012, they have to notify GIC by October 1st. The manager's already said to the coalition group that he has an agreement with till June 30th that he wants to honor that. He's going to honor that. So that means we're not going to be even entertaining going to the GIC to July 1st. If the city plans on going on in April 1st of 2012, you have to notify the state by December 1st. If the city is entertaining going in by July 1st, they have until March 1st of next year to notify the state. Allow us. All I'm asking, I have a bunch of stuff here. It's not needed for me to read. Everybody has said what needs to be said. It's a matter of fairness. Allow us to sit at the table without some gun saying to our head or some law saying you have to do it in 30 days or get it done and we're going to go there. Allow us to try this process again. Allow us to go back to the table. Doesn't work, you can always come back here, take your vote, say, I tried to work with the unions, we tried to hammer out agreement, we couldn't do it. Now I have to go under this plan. So you're not forced to do this. You're not compelled to do this. City of Boston did it. They didn't do it under the PERC agreement. They just went in and hammered it out. Estimated savings over $78 million. The union sat with them and gave up things. But they took care of the needy people that really need the health care. So all I'm saying to the council is, please get educated in all these laws. Because I think what sometimes you're hearing, they're forcing the union's hands and saying you have to do this within a timetable. It's not good faith. It's not what we're about. It's not what you people are about. There are some people out there, like I said, and I hate to keep repeating myself, it's not a one-size-fits-all. And I think we can hammer them things out if you allow us to go back to the table, not under Section 21, but allow us to go back to the table in good faith and negotiate and hammer something out. Thank you.
Thomas Fleming, 50 Arcan Drive, Lowell, Mass. Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, I've been a police officer in the City of Lowell for 30 years. I'm presently the president of Local 10, Lowell Police Superior Officers Union. I'm here to speak to you on behalf as chairman and chairperson of the Insurance Coalition. There's a group of 14 municipal unions that formed voluntarily earlier this calendar year. And over the course of approximately 3 months, the coalition worked with the city manager, his staff, the Human Resource Department, the city solicitor, the chief financial officer, and Blue Cross Blue Shield. And that management team that you put in place made some historic changes that no other manager in the city of Lowell could do, and that was to negotiate in good faith with the city of Lowell employees, 14 unions, approximately 800 employees, and we eliminated Master Medical. It was done over the course of 3 months in numerous meetings, and we made quite a bit of progress. And as chairperson of the Insurance Coalition, I'd like to ask you to allow us to continue to negotiate in the process that we were able to do up to this point. And I don't see any reason why we couldn't be able to do that. The 14 union presidents have asked me to come here and speak on their behalf, indicating their willingness to continue this process. And if we can eliminate Master Medical, I'm sure we can increase a doctor's visit by $5 or $10. This is not rocket science. We understand that it's not cost savings. We know it's cost shifting. We read the news media accounts from all over the country. We realize what's going on with healthcare, and there are no secrets. Blue Cross Blue Shield has been at the table with us. We've been able to work with them, as well as the management team that you have put in place as city councilors. And we feel that we can continue this process, and we feel that we can make gains for everybody. We feel that the retirees are represented in this group because all these members are going to be retired shortly, including myself. So we feel that we're speaking for everybody when we're at the table and we're not leaving anybody out. We're all taxpayers. We all pay taxes. We realize that the health care issue and the cost of health care is not going to be resolved around a table in the mayor's reception room. That's something that's going to be done in Washington, D.C. But yet we're willing to make the changes. The cost and the savings in creating some savings in the city's budget and collective bargaining, they're not mutually exclusive. They should come together. We feel that we've saved the city well over $1 million up to this point, and we don't see why, as city employees, we can't continue that process and allow you, as the city council and the mayor of the city of Lowell, to determine how those savings will be spent and not have to follow the regulations that were written in Boston to dictate to you how the savings will be spent. We feel that it would be good for you, as the city council is elected by the taxpayers, to be able to determine how that savings is spent in the city of Lowell. The 30-day process is really a problem from my perspective, being a chairperson of the Insurance Coalition. I would refer to that as crisis negotiation. It took us over 3 months to negotiate the elimination of Master Medical. I can't imagine how we're going to do plan design in 30 days. Having worked in the, I guess you would say, the field of crisis negotiation for the past 30 years, good things often don't happen. And I don't think you want to manage a city in a form of crisis. So if we could have a reasonable amount of time, given that the agreement that the city manager has agreed with us in our most recent meeting in the past couple of weeks, that he would honor this agreement till June 30th of 2012. That's the agreement that the 14 union presidents have signed. It was overwhelmingly ratified by all the members of those unions. And if we could continue working, I would estimate that by that time we could have a new agreement. The last agreement, I described to a reporter in the local newspaper back in April that it was a fair agreement for the employees, it was a good agreement for the city, and it was a great agreement for the taxpayers. And I don't see why we can't do that again in 2012. It's the same personnel involved. You have the same management team here in place. You have asked them to save some money. You have asked them to conserve some money within the city budget. The union presidents realize that this is a cost-shifting issue, not a cost savings, although many people talk about savings. We know it's not savings, we know it's shifting, and we're ready to roll up our sleeves, be at the table with the present insurance carrier, and continue that. We would prefer to continue with Blue Cross Blue Shield and the present package that they offer and pay a little more than have to go to a plan that we have absolutely no control of and will more than likely spiral out of cost. Somewhere around well over 500,000 people will be in that pool shortly, the GIC. And we feel that with the team that you have put in place in the city and with your guidelines and insight and guidance, that it would be best for you as the city councilors if we continue negotiating. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Patty Shepard, 53 Cliffside Road. I almost forgot my own address. I'm here tonight not as a retiree, but as a hopeful retiree. I'm here as a person who's lived and spent my entire life in Lowell paying plenty of taxes. I have worked for the school department. I am the third generation that he spoke of earlier. And I, like many, many, many other people in Lowell, want nothing more than the city of Lowell to do well. That is dependent upon all of our employees, and the way we treat our employees determines who stays as our employees. The retirees have no option. They retired as your employee. Do you really want to shift the thought of every working person in this city to retiring for somewhere else so that we get better benefits? Is that really what you're looking for? Think about your city. I don't want to talk to you about numbers and all of the technicalities and dates. You already know that. But one thing that does not seem clear to me is that there is no respect and honor to the people who've dedicated their entire lives to making this city better. Their entire lives. I have options. If I so desired, I could find another job. I could go get better health insurance somewhere else. Right now, we are that city. Right now, there are people who come work to Lowell because we have a better health care plan than the place they're working at now. And I'm happy because a lot of those people are very good at what they do. It's part of our package. We've negotiated it for years. It should stay part of what we negotiate. It should not be taken out, unless, of course, you'd like to give back all of the things we gave away in negotiations in order to be able to keep it. I am no mathematician. I teach reading, okay? So I don't know exactly how much that would cost the city, but I am pretty certain it would be more expensive than giving up the plan we have. What I'm saying to you is you need to decide if you are going to honor and respect your employees and your retirees, or if you're going to hand all of their hard work away. It's you. It's you guys who decide. It's up to you to decide which direction the city is going to go. Are you going to encourage people to come or discourage people? Are you going to encourage people to leave? Is that really what you want? Is that really how you want your legacy as mayor and as city council members? I mean, is that really how you want to be remembered? I think long and hard about that. I don't know. Maybe it's worth it for you. But what I think is that every single one of these people in this room And every single taxpayer in the city of Lowell deserves more respect than that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know Mr. Milanazzo, 5 minutes. Members of the council, mayor, city manager Lynch. I said quite a bit a few weeks ago when we spoke about this, and I really appreciate the folks that came out and spoke on this issue from the heart and from a perspective that they know uniquely. The legislation that you have before you is regressive legislation. In what very, very specific area? It targets the most vulnerable people because it has the potential for increasing copays and deductibles. Healthy people don't worry about that. Young people tend not to worry about that. They tend not to use the doctors very often. They tend not to use the pharmaceuticals very often. It's the people in the latter part of their lives that have really very little potential of increasing their incomes. They may be of an age where they can't take a part-time job, nor should they be expected to. The villains aren't the people here. You're not the villains. It's not the taxpayers. It's the pharmaceutical companies. Did you ever go and visit a pharmaceutical salesman and go to lunch with them? There is no cap. You can go any place you want. Those industries are making huge money. Health insurance industry is making huge money. Certainly even the nonprofits are making huge money. We read them all the time in the paper, the millions of dollars that the CEOs get. And we sit here and fight this out. There are compassionate ways of moving forward and saving money. I articulated a few weeks ago the process that we went into 4 years ago when we opened the door to two other health insurance plans and then endeavored to try to educate our members as much as we could about the benefits of all three plans. The resulting savings, Jay Lang last year put together a report for the school committee and said that migration away from Master Medical saved up to $4 million over the first 3 years. This year it's almost $2.5 million to be added to that number. Now, some people might say, well, no one forced our hand in that. It was our proposal that we went to the table with. But what was more important is that we went out of our way to bring in Boston Benefit Partners, over a dozen times brought them in to educate our members about alternative health plans that has saved millions of dollars. And it took no draconian measures to do it. It simply took an active and involved and dedicated commitment to try to bring the cost down in a rational way and still preserve choice for the employees. So that just in case maybe we don't get it right, somebody who is catastrophically ill can utilize the best health care plan for them dependent on what their needs are. So we can look at the bigger picture. Now, I just heard that by elimination of Master Medical a few months ago, there was $1 million in savings. But we asked the city manager 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago when he first got here, to educate the retirees about alternative health plans. And it only happened once. It happened last December. And within 4 months, without choice, they lost Master Medical. I think the coalition unions that decided to give it up in exchange for something else certainly were within their bargaining rights to do it. But it was unconscionable to include the retirees in that elimination of Master Medical because they were not included in the process by which it was lost. The state recognized legitimate coalition bargaining as having a proportional vote, but more importantly, a part to play by the retirees. I remember the discussions when the city manager told you that he was consulting with the retirees during this process. Consulting and giving them a vote, ensuring that they have a voice and a vote are different things. They are much different things. It's been calculated, in fact, I went to a conference on Saturday down in Quincy, that approximately, and we said this in my office last week when we met with a group of concerned union members and leaders, that this will cost the average recipient about $1,000. It's a cost shift about $1,000 onto every single person who has health insurance, on average. That's on average. Someone who's healthy will see no appreciable increase. But that also means that people who are chronically ill could see significant increases. We have to go gently with this. This is people's lives. This is their Medicare. In cases of people who are not Medicare eligible, this is all they have to get them through. We talk about respect and people are wearing buttons that say respect. This has to be about respect. How we do this defines who we are. And I will be totally honest, I don't think this city council, in my opinion, has shown enough oversight over these processes. I don't know if you're aware that there's grievances out there now because the rates that were set this year on the health insurance on the school department side were in violation of our agreements that we made when the city manager was part of the school committee for that negotiation. I don't know that you know that request for information to justify the rates was sent out and we've received none of that information. That there's unfair labor practice being filed at this point. Who do we go to if the city council does not play a more active role? Now, I understand the city solicitor may have an opinion that says you can't interfere with negotiations, but you can certainly oversee and create some guidelines. And I'm disappointed that that hasn't been the case. Because sometimes I think the information that you get may not be all the information there is. And by conducting some kind of subcommittee or some way reaching out to the people, they would be able to inform you about differences of opinion or inform you about a different perspective on how some of these things are carried. To join the GIC, and this would be a foolish move to go into the GIC for a number of reasons. We've done a lot of research on this stuff. The GIC is primarily held or utilized by unions or by municipalities in the city of Boston. They have the most expensive health care in the country. So consequently, they utilize expensive resources or expensive vehicles to attain their health care. Why would we join? Why would we join when the majority of the health care that we get is in the local community? Number two, since this legislation is passed, who's going to be attracted to going to the GIC? It's going to be the communities that have the worst records when it comes to health insurance. It's going to be the communities that are upside down, if you want to look at it that way. So consequently, down the road, the GIC, if not right now, certainly would be substantially more expensive down the road and really give no does not be cost effective for the city of Lowell. Even if you were to join, the process they would have not to have to be notified until March 1st. Certainly that would give us time under legitimate 32B coalition bargaining to be able to work together to come up in a way that protects the interest. We know it's a cost shift. This is not savings. There is no legislation here that's going to cap what a doctor can make or can cap what a hospital can charge for a room or can cap anything having to do with medical procedures. It's a cost shift, and we have to make sure it doesn't hurt the people that are most vulnerable. So I'm asking you to have some oversight in this process. We need not rush to this process. We can do it 2 or 3 months from now. We can enter a legitimate coalition bargaining that gives retirees a voice at the table. In fact, this legislation demands, contrary to what had been experienced before, demands 32B coalition bargaining that guarantees the retirees a place at the table. But I'm asking you to allow us to move in that direction before you adopt this, if you adopt this. And I ask that you think clearly about whether or not it's worthy of adoption. What we do here says a lot about what we feel about our retirees and active members. The school department has been effective in saving money simply by educating folks. We need to be more creative, more compassionate, and constructive in how we do things, because this isn't our first challenge. This is going to be part and parcel of the future, the way it looks now, with the pending economy and the way things are going. I ask you to retain oversight over this, to go into a legitimate coalition bargaining process. Give us some time to work this way and make sure the retirees have a place at the table so that we can do this in the most humane and effective way we can, a way that's respectful of their commitment and our commitment to the community, one that shows your appreciation for their efforts and respect for their work. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Public hearing is closed. Council Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here this evening, and all those who came to the podium with a very passionate message. And I was intent listening to every speaker. And many of them, Mr. Mayor, indicated, does the council have enough information? As one councilor, I don't think I do. So I'm going to request, Mr. Mayor, that you call a special meeting next Tuesday, have the manager bring the representatives of Blue Cross Blue Shield, whoever it might be, and show us some stats, some data, and everything pertaining to this issue. Because I don't think I have enough information on this issue. And that's a motion that I'm bringing forward.
Motion by Council Caulfield to have a special meeting of the whole next Tuesday to invite representatives from Blue Cross Blue Shield to gather information.
Second.
Second by Council Mercier. On the motion, Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I am not here next Tuesday. I am out of town on business, so I will not be here next Tuesday. I'd be more than happy to do something of that sort, but it can't be next Tuesday.
Well, Mr.
Council
Manager,
Caulfield.
you can have a representative filling in for you. We need more information than we have.
I understand that. That's certainly a possibility. The other possibility is potentially delaying the vote. But I would prefer to be here if that's, that would be my preference.
We could certainly delay the vote. It's scheduled for 2 weeks. We could actually delay the vote that night and have representatives from Blue Cross Blue Shield here that night, and then the manager will be back. I think in fairness to the manager, who's been involved obviously in this discussion, that he should be here. Councilor Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was so glad to hear a retired teacher come to the podium and tell me that he didn't understand a lot of this, because I thought it was just me. I thought, I don't understand this, so if a teacher doesn't understand it, I feel a little bit better in good company, because I didn't understand it either. And so with that, having said that,
Councilor Mercier, we have a motion on the floor. Do you want to withdraw that motion, or do you want that?
No, I think we should have a special meeting or a special segment, Mr. Mayor, pertaining to this issue. And I don't care how long it takes.
I understand that, but don't you agree the manager should be here?
What's that?
Don't you agree the city manager should be here?
Yes.
well, he's the one proposing it.
Correct.
Maybe he
Well,
should be here.
I think he should be
So
here. That's my-
I know you're going to
You can delay
a
the vote,
conference.
but I want to have a special segment on this issue.
Right.
Whether it's
And
on
that's
Monday
fine.
night or what.
I agree, but right now we have your motion on the floor to meet next Tuesday. It's been seconded.
But I think he should be here,
I think he
really.
should be
I
here.
do.
Right.
And-
Then I'll withdraw the motion,
Okay.
and the motion should read that we should have a special meeting pertaining to this issue.
Correct.
Even if the vote has to be delayed.
Correct.
Because what Lieutenant Fleming indicated, there were 14 unions, a coalition negotiated with Manager Lynch, and I applaud Manager Lynch for doing this. They eliminated Master Medical. And what Lieutenant Fleming indicated, give us a chance so we can probably negotiate more savings down the road. And this is a huge vote.
This is a vote.
A huge vote for these people and their families. All I want to do is be fair, not only with myself, but with them. And I think every council feels that. So I don't have enough information before me. If we vote in favor of this, the manager is going to have the jurisdiction to pick Plan A instead of Plan B. I don't know. I don't know a Plan A office. I don't know a Plan B office. And I think we should know that. So
I agree. Mr. Manager?
No, I want to be careful not to get into any great discussion of this topic tonight, because I know that the purpose was to have the public hearing, and then we're going to talk about it at a subsequent meeting, and I certainly have no problem with bringing in some analysis to show the council how the savings could be generated, and of course, the savings generated really will depend upon what we work out with the unions. But to that point, my request in bringing this forward at this time was to enable us, as several people pointed out, Mr. Rudy, Mr. Fleming, and others, the process of negotiation last time to eliminate Master Medical and to make changes, and we did take into by the way, we did take into consideration the input of the retirees as we did that plan design. We retained the carve-out A and B plans as requested by the retirees. We grandfathered those people in so that they could keep carve-out A and B as they knew it, and we weren't forcing them into MedEx. So we did take that into consideration. But as both of those individuals pointed out, the process takes some time. And I've said this to the council, I've said this to the public. My purpose in bringing this forward now was to get the ball rolling. A number of other communities have already adopted this. It's not like Lowell will be the first community in the state to do this. But my purpose is to begin the negotiations with the unions. We do have 30 days under this, but we can agree to continue it beyond the 30 days. This isn't going to be, in all likelihood, this isn't going to be negotiated in 30 days. It's going to take 60 days, 90 days. But at the end of the day, if we're going to save the taxpayers the $4 to $6 million that this type of change could make, we need to be able to know that at some point in time we can move forward. Those 14 unions came to the table. They bargained in good faith. They bargained very well on behalf of their members and on behalf of the retirees, because they did have safety measures put in for the retirees. We did have the mitigation fund. But that's going to take a little bit of time to make that happen. I'm not looking to implement something right now. I'm looking to continue those negotiations. Hopefully, but I think it's significant that the school department, the school unions, have to be at the table. They have to participate in this. And last year, unfortunately, they refused to participate in this with this bargaining system. So I'm more than happy to begin that process once again. I've indicated that to the unions, and certainly that's my goal, is to do that. Not to just start the clock rolling, 30 days later, implement. My goal is to have something in place so the fiscal year 2013, we have some savings that will benefit the taxpayers, benefit the employees, and that's really what my goal is. So I'm more than happy to begin that process immediately. But I think that there has to be an end point that the council has to. If the council is looking for savings, and they look to me to savings all the time, if they're looking for savings, we have to. Draw a line in the, in the ground and say, okay, we have to make an agreement before this date, or else, we're going to have to take some action, some other type of action. But in any event, that's. I just wanted to address the issue of negotiations. More than happy to sit down immediately with all of the bargaining units of the city, including the schools, to see and have a retiree there as well. Not under the formal Section 19 of 32B, but certain.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Manager.
So I'm more than happy to sit down and try to hammer something out that we can all agree to, see those savings and see the retention of benefits for the employees as well.
Thank you. Council Mercia, then Council Coffey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had many people call my home, and many people. Well, not many people, but a few people called that are retirees. I heard from a gentleman who's on a feeding tube, and he takes special food that goes into that feeding tube, and this change would severely impact him, that he could not afford this. And maybe he would have a home that would be foreclosed, because, I don't know, I think his health is more important than what else he would need. Immediately, he'd need that food. I don't know what to say about that, but I thought that a promise or some understanding was made that exempted retirees. Is this, and so if that were the case, why would he be concerned about it? So
I'm not sure why he would be concerned about it, Councilor, and I'm sure that of the 500,000 members of the GIC, there's, several members that are in a similar situation to this gentleman, and certainly they receive benefits as well.
Well, why don't you explain in a nutshell what this proposal would be? In other words, we asked people on Master Medical to go to an HMO and a PPO, and they've done that. And now you're asking for something on top of that?
Well,
what exactly is this? I'm actually not looking for an applause. I'm looking for an answer, but thanks anyway. But go ahead.
When we entered into negotiations with the unions last year, we said, look, we don't know what's going to happen with all this plan design stuff, but let's see if we can sit down and work something out to bring some of these costs under control. And the unions worked jointly with us in good faith and in a very respectful way on both sides, that we were able to make an agreement. But we understood that it was for a year, and that down the road there were going to be changes in law that were going to affect future plan design issues. And one of the questions raised, or one of the comments made tonight, was that the insurance advisory, the coalition, and the advisory committee came to me and said, "Are you going to stand by your word that this is good for the rest of the year?" And there is language, I believe, in that agreement that we could twist and turn and say, look, there's been a change in law, and now that law applies. But we were firm. We said, look, we bargained in good faith. We're going to stick to that. But we also agreed, all of us, that moving forward, we're going to be making more changes. We're going to be looking at things like co-pays, like deductibles, that will, by the way, have a positive impact on the premiums. The employees will save money on their premiums as a result of this. I have right in front of me the annual savings for the employees that are part of the GIC. And it's sizable, ranging anywhere from for a family with an indemnity plan, $500. For the PPO, it's going to be a family is going to be almost $1,400. For the HMO, it's going to be just under $1,000. So there are savings on the premiums. But what happened this year, what's interesting too, is that what happened this summer is that the legislature gave to municipalities, with the input and the consent of the unions in the Commonwealth, they gave municipalities the opportunity to sit down and have expedited bargaining with all of the bargaining units to make changes in health insurance. Right now, we either have to do it under Section 19. I know Mr. Georges would love to see us go into Section 19. But this plan, or this law, allows us to sit down, try to hammer something out under a 30-day window. We can agree to extend it beyond the 30 days if both sides agree. And what it has to happen is it has to essentially match the GIC, or it can be a little less than the GIC if we think that's worthwhile, or we can just go to the GIC, the state plan that 500,000 people belong to. And at the end of it all, if there's a disagreement over what the savings are, it goes to a panel of made up of a management rep, a labor rep, and a neutral.
See,
Councilor Mercia.
this is my feelings right here. You more or less want this council to vote for something very soon that wouldn't take effect until down the road. It's almost like, I'm going to buy this car and sign the paper, but I won't even take it for a test drive or pick it up until next June. And I can't do that with people's lives. And I'm not saying which way I'm going to support this, but ultimately, would you have sole power over everybody's copay? Or
I would be able to implement a plan that is that essentially matches what the state employees have. That's what I would be able to do at the end of the day. But again, why are we asking for this now? I could have waited, but the issue with waiting is then it doesn't sort of bring everyone to the table right away to start the negotiations. I'm more than happy to sit down right now and start negotiations, but I think we need to draw a line in the ground and say, look, people, we have to make these savings.
But are there other options available without this specific deal here before us? Are there other options that would be saving money that wouldn't be so catastrophic?
Well, I'm not sure what's so catastrophic here, because essentially what we're doing is the same thing that all the state employees have at the absolute, ultimate change. We would say you're going to the same plan that the state employees have. And to my knowledge, the state employees are not, they're not going broke on their health insurance, and they're not being ignored in terms of their health care. My goal, as I've said tonight and I've said repeatedly, is to sit down with the unions and try to hammer something out. I would love to be able to hammer something out. That would make me very happy. But there has to be serious negotiations on the side of the collective bargaining groups. And I've seen it, very bluntly. I have seen it with the 14 unions that we met with. I haven't seen it from the school unions.
Well, I think that more discussion should be had. I think this council, as well as the people, should be sitting down and asking questions in an open public forum so that we can get a better idea and a better handle on what I would be voting to be involved in other people's lives. And I think that would be important.
Councilor Martin? You already spoke, Councilor Caulfield. I'll recognize you in a minute. I just want those that haven't spoken yet.
Mr. Mayor, I don't object to having a separate meeting about this. I think the issues are very serious, and it's always helpful, I guess, to have more information about what the legislation entails. But a lot of the points that have been made tonight are called for in the legislation. A vote of the retirees, a vote of, 10% weighted vote comes for the retirees in this legislation. There's provisions that require us to have a mitigation fund for people that would be catastrophically impacted in this legislation, similar to what I think we worked out with the 14 unions. If your savings, if your costs go up more than your premiums come down, you have access to this fund that we set up as part of that deal. And I'm hopeful that we could have something similar under this legislation. But there is a lot of detail here, and I think, and there's some misinformation, and there are also people just reluctant to change. I think we all are resistant to change. We like things the way they are. But the fact of the matter is, since I've been here, the health insurance premiums for the city have gone from $13 million to $39 million. They've tripled in just over 10 years. And that can't sustain for anybody, because eventually it's going to bankrupt everybody. And I think these types of funds that enable us to reduce premiums while keeping some control on costs have worked well in companies, other places, other companies that I'm aware of. It doesn't seem to make sense, but it does. If you say, okay, I'm going to put the copay on this is going to go from $20 to $25, but your premium is going to reduce as a result of that by an even greater number, then that makes sense. And I know places that will pay an employee, we're going to cut this benefit and we're just going to give you a cash payment because it's cheaper for us. We save it in the premium. And I think that's what some of this mitigation language will do. So, and I think the council's been pretty clear about what it's intended to do here. We voted, this council, to petition the legislature to get some control over plan design. And this is what came back. This is what came back. They didn't act on our petition, but this was hammered out at the state level with the state delegation, with the governor, with input from the unions. Not everybody got what they wanted, but this is what it is. So, I'm all for having a meeting and understand it better, because I think you could always gain some insight. But I think it would be helpful. But to say, the council has been silent on this. I think we spoke loud and clear with our last vote, and we're going to have to do it again.
Thank you. Council Caulfield and Council Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've been on this for well over an hour and a half now, so I would suggest that you have a special meeting at 5 and don't interfere with the council meeting, so everyone could be informed on what Manager Lynch is bringing forward. That's number one. And I think the fear that I've been listening to is, what is the plan? And now, I've been an advocate, Mr. Manager. Master Medical is the Cadillac of all health insurances. HMO Blue, PPOs, excellent plan, excellent. I think they want to know what plan we're talking about. I do. And if you can furnish the council with information and have Tom Moses have a thing on the screen here with information, and let us sit back and engulf that. Sure. And I'll be better educated about it, and so won't these people that are here tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Manager.
If I could, and I know the council has been spending quite a bit of time on this, but council, one of the issues I have that I want to be clear on is that I can't come in and say, this is my plan, because the intent is that I'm going to negotiate with the unions. I'm not going to come in and say, this is my plan, this is it. I want to go to the unions and say, this is our plan. Now, what I can do, I'll be happy to do, is bring you in the GIC plan. And you can see,
bring various plans in so we can look and see
what the GIC looks like. And then let's give me the opportunity to sit down with the unions and say, this is what, let's hammer something out. Let's get some maximum savings. We'll be happy to make a presentation to the council. Absolutely.
It hasn't been done yet, and it has to be.
Well, we don't have because we don't have a plan that we're ready to bring forward to the council, because we want to sit down with the unions.
If we vote on this plan, Mr. Manager, everything is in your control. It's in your hands.
But we need to sit down with the unions and bargain this out. That's what I'm saying, and that's what we want to do.
So Mr. Mayor,
I'd like to hear from
motion forward to have a meeting at 5 on this particular issue at the next council meeting. Okay?
Motion then by Council Caulfield to meet at 5 o'clock prior to our next regularly scheduled meeting to discuss this plan issue in greater detail. We have a second by Councilor Mercia. Before we take a vote, Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was one of the first times I've ever heard anybody really applauded for a lack of understanding. I think that individual councilors have the really responsibility, if they don't receive information, to seek it out. I have a copy here of the regulations that were issued August 12th. I asked the manager to include that in the packet. Perhaps we'd be able to get that then in the next packet. But I think it is important that we just don't rely solely on one source of information to be able to make our decisions, because these potential changes do have an effect on people. And it was mentioned that there'll be adjustments to copays and deductibles, and that would result in really a lowering of the premiums, and that's true on the average. But the problem is when you have retirees who are clearly more likely to be sick, more likely to be using the health care, and therefore bearing the larger burden of those increases in copays and deductibles, so that the shift is really toward those who are most sick, who are oldest, and who are poorest, which is really getting away from the idea of what insurance was meant to be, as a protection against the events that might happen by being a part of a larger pool. I think that it does make sense to have a meeting so that everybody fully understands what it is they're voting on. and what potential changes could take place, not just now, not just in a year, but after 2014, because there could be some significant changes after then. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, as by way of questioning, in the law, the copy of the law that we received, there was the indication that after 2014, July 1st, contribution ratios would be on the table for retirees. Is that considered a part of the plan design change, or that would necessitate that process to be implemented with the panel, or is that completely separate from that requirement of the 22B?
The purpose, let me try to explain by just kind of explaining the purpose of that language as I understand it, and then give my thoughts on that. Well, maybe I should start with my thoughts on it. It's not my intention, it's not my thought to change the contribution levels. We're a 75-25 community, and I think we should stay 75-25 community for the foreseeable future. Now, I did discuss with some of the retirees in our discussions, if as an option, if we, with the employees, if we had retained Master Medical, we could have made some other, we could have cut employees, we could have negotiated pay reductions, we could have frozen out for the foreseeable future any compensation increases, and who knows when we'll be able to do that anyway. But we could do that. With the retirees, we didn't have any option. So the active employees would be bearing the brunt of the cost of health insurance in the continuation of Master Medical, which Councilor Caulfield, I understand you referred to as a Cadillac, but I would question whether it's really a Cadillac, because by most accounts, it's a dinosaur. It really doesn't do what it's supposed to do and ends up costing people a lot more money. So we talked to the retirees about the possibility of, well, if the active employees bears additional costs by those measures, maybe one of the things we'll be forced to do is look at the retiree contribution as a way to sort of even the playing field. So the active employees aren't bearing all of the brunt. We'd make some change. But that's not my goal. My goal here is to retain the 75-25. And that would be the same moving forward. Unless, of course, we can't come to any type of agreement down the road, or maybe the retirees will be willing to do something and take a little bit less, and we could hammer all that out in negotiations. But my goal would be to stay 75-25. But what the retirees were concerned statewide as to what might happen, so the legislature put language into the law that said we're going to a community must keep that percentage until 2014. They can't change that. And that intended to give some comfort to the retirees in those other communities. That's not our intention to do that here, to make changes.
Right, okay, so, and you've mentioned that before. The concern isn't about what happens from now till then. The concern is what happens after then. Because, I mean, as you say, you're not interested in changing the contribution ratio. And that's fine, but we don't know that you'll be here in 2014. We don't know that you'll be here in 2017. And so the question really is, what is your ability after that period to be able to change that without establishing any of those mitigation measures that are called for with the other plan design changes?
Nothing, as it stands right now, if we don't adopt this, that contribution level can be changed.
Right.
So nothing changes. I don't have a crystal ball that I can say in 2017 this is going to happen. Right now, I can tell you that we could change it if we wanted to. That's not what I've brought forward. I've never brought that forward. I have no intention to bring that forward. The law says 2014, but I'm sitting here now, and I don't know if I'm going to be here in 2014 or 2015 or next week. And
we know you're not going to be here.
That's
next
true.
week.
That's true. I won't be here next week. But I can tell you that my goal is to have a plan that's sustainable for the employees and the retirees, and try to hammer something out for the next 3 to 6 years.
Just to further on a point made
And maybe
earlier.
that's the way to solve it, is if we can try to hammer something out for the next 6 years, then that satisfies all of that, and we don't have to worry about it till 2018.
Well, one point you did raise, and that is that, active employees would bear the burden of the cost of retirees, but that gets really away from what the idea of insurance is, as I said before. I mean, what Social Security is, what Medicare is. It's, of course, when you get into that stage of your life, you're not paying as much into it because you've already done that. We're talking about we're not talking about changing the rules during the game. We're talking about changing the rules after the game has been already played. It's one thing for current employees to be able to make adjustments to the new reality. And this is not to say that this is not a new reality. But it's been mentioned before, this is not going to control health care costs. That's not going to be done here. We are actually the body least able to have some kind of control over that. It's been a deferment of responsibility from the national government to the state government and now to us. So there are ways, though, to achieve some savings. There are ways even to achieve some savings through the copays, where you're not encouraging the overuse of health care in certain respects. But those are just initial. And when you're talking about $4 to $6 million of savings, which is increased from 3 to 5, and that's after $1 million has already been saved with the last agreement, it then begins to really raise the question of where you're going to achieve those. And it will be through a cost shift, and it will be the retirees and those who are sickest who will be bearing that burden. So I do think that on the motion here, that it is important that people fully understand what is going to happen with this law, because it's, the suggestion was made that if we don't have this law in place, then we wouldn't be able to achieve those savings. I don't believe that's true. It hasn't been the case for, the past, several years of history. And, if that is a suggestion, then it doesn't bode well for the ability of this administration to be actually achieve some concessions on other matters, whether it be, sick leave buyback that was discussed earlier at the subcommittee or what have you. So I think people do fully need to understand what it is that this law allows for, not just now, not just next year, but 3, 5, 10 years from now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Doctor?
I certainly would welcome having more information about what could happen as a result of adopting this law. Clearly, there's misinformation out there about what can happen. Possibly what our savings are may be exaggerated. I put that in there, so on both sides. I do know that if we do nothing, that the costs continue to increase and everybody's going to pay more. The city pays 75%, the people who get the benefits pay the 25%. So, in a sense, by controlling our costs, we're controlling the premiums, and there would be savings to the people receiving the benefits as well. It seems like the manager would have carte blanche, and that's not really true. I mean, we started this process, as already been alluded to, by sending a home rule petition. It was the council that sent that because they knew they had to bring these healthcare costs under control. Now, the manager was more than supportive in doing that, sure. He's been an advocate of doing this type of plan design from the beginning. But still, we were doing this, and we set this in motion by having that vote. Yes, they didn't adopt our home rule petition, but this is the result of ours and several other communities' home rule petitions. I did download the 6-page guide from the state, which is GIC Health Benefits at a Glance, because I understood that we couldn't charge more than they do, so that, in a sense, is a limit of where we could go. Now, as looking at it, it's not easy because there are 11 different health plans that they offer. HMOs, PPOs, indemnity, and they all have different co-pays and different, let's see, well, the different deductibles. So I would like to have this sorted out. I would like to know what the limits are. How far can we go with co-pays? Where, as I understand it, we're not changing our plans with this. We're just changing plan design. So we'd still have a PPO, we'd still have an HMO. It's just how much are the co-pays? I'm not sure if the deductibles are included in that. I think yes, but that's something that could come out in this information session. And what would trigger us going to GIC? Does the council have another vote at that time, or just is it up to management to decide that's the greater savings, that's the way we're going? I would like to know that before voting on this. What are the limits? And does the manager or the administration at the time have to come back to the council before going something as drastic as changing to GIC versus continuing with our own plan with the plan design? And I have this information, but I think it'll be worth having it available at this information session so that everybody knows what the limits are. Now, keeping in mind that the limits are what that board has set. Going into the future, that board can change these. And we're just limited to being no more than no more expensive than these plans. So we know it's not something set in stone, but it does give us a guide as to where it goes. And it does indicate that the manager does not have carte blanche on making these changes. There are limits. But again, we need to understand what those limits are before we have the vote. So I'm all in favor of having more information, and I'd like to have it from multiple sources or independently verifiable. So the data, something like that, as Councilor Murphy indicated, so that we're not relying on one source where we don't have the underlying data. So I want to be able to verify that these are in fact true, this is what it is. I mean, again, some of it's on the state website. It's easy enough to verify, at least what it is today. And this, by the way, is for 2011, 2012. And again, it's only 6 pages, so anyone could download it and take a quick look at it. So again, I look forward to that meeting and getting all the information I can before taking this vote.
Thank you, Councilman Mendoza. Anyone else on the motion? All those in favor of having a special meeting on September 27th at 5 p.m. signify by saying aye. Councilor Elliott.
I'm sorry, I just feel compelled to speak on this as well as my colleagues. These folks have come down patiently week after week for months now. And I think it's important to know that we have heard your concerns. I think a call for more information will benefit all of us, including myself. I've gotten the information off the website and the emergency regulations. I can't say that I'm an expert and that I know exactly what's coming down the pike. What I do know is that we have discussed this for literally a couple of years now. And if we do nothing, we fail not only the people in this room, but we fail every taxpayer in the city. Now, that being said, I think passionate pleas have been made by the people in this room. They have done their time, and we should show them respect. The concern is we don't want to, I understand, Mr. Manager, you don't want to show your hand, but I think that there is some level that we need to give the people here in this room a level of comfort to know that, you know, the numbers being thrown out at training sessions, maybe they are, maybe they're not accurate, $1,000, that would be a concern to me, and it clearly is a concern to people who are on a fixed income. So I think a meeting is well warranted, and to give some idea, without showing your hand, as you said, some idea as to what the impact, what the changes. I understand. One of the concerns with this legislation, and I understand plan design. One of the concerns is that retirees, and we, you know, someday a lot of people will be retirees. They only get a 10% say at the table, and that has been a repeated concern to people representing retirees, you know, negotiating with you. I know we can't change it, but when you come up with these, you know, is there a way to give them, why should it just be a majority of a 3-person panel? Why can't retirees have a say? It seems an issue of fairness, and that's another, you know, it's been another statement, concern throughout fairness. Is there any reason why retirees can't have a say at the table, considering they are a large proportion of the individuals that are affected by the decisions made under these, you know, under these regulations? So I think it's a very good idea to have another meeting to address some of these concerns. You know, what are the options? What is a true impact going to be? Not, you know, not just a lot of hearsay, and see about this representation issue.
Sure. If I may, the issue of the retirees having a say at the table under this statute. They do.
10%, Mr. Manager.
Right. Right. That's what the state has said. Up to this time, they have not had a vote. They do have a 10% vote under this legislation. As far as showing my hand, I want to be clear. It's not a case where I'm not willing to show my hand. This isn't a. My concern is that I haven't negotiated anything with the union yet, so I can't say what my plan is, because I want to show respect to the union, the collective bargaining process, in terms of sitting down and trying to hammer something out. Now, I can come in, and I will come in, and I will say, and Councilman Donson has the GIC publication there, and I'll say this is what the GIC would look like. This is what, you know, this program will essentially look like if we do this. Now, once we get into negotiations, the fire union or the police union or whoever, the retiree that's sitting at the table might say, well, instead of doing X, Y, and Z, what if you did this? What if we did this? If it's within, you know, some reasonable parameter, then we say, yeah, we lose some of the savings, but we can work that out. And there might be some benefits to that overall. But there, you know, I do, and I heard there was some chuckles as I said that, but I do want to show some respect to the process. This is the whole point of this, is that we sit down at the table, we try to hammer this out. And that, again, that's been my goal of bringing this forward. I could have just waited until, as some of the people have already mentioned, we can wait until the absolute deadline to get into the GIC 30 days prior or 40 days prior, so that we just say, okay, here it is, city council vote, let's sit down. It can all be a charade. We all can sit at the table and make believe we're negotiating. But if we're really going to negotiate, it's going to take time. And that's why I brought it in now instead of waiting until January.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Council Broderick, then Council Dakota.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we have a couple issues here. One is the education piece, and I think misinformation. It's similar, I think, to a year ago when we had the issue of trying to move people from the Master Medical in the fear, in the reluctance to change. Now, the difficulty is there's 11 different plans or options on the GIC, and then we have, I don't know how many retirees, 1,000, I'm not sure what the number is, 800. So now you multiply that by 11. So is there a way, Mr. Manager, I know we did this where you made people available in human resources. I mean, is there a way to have some type of resource for the retirees to reach out with their own individual issues? Because most of these folks in this room aren't going to have necessarily the same issues or same fears, as a way to find out how it fits. Because it seems like there's just, obviously we can all have a difference of opinion, but the facts seem to be so far apart that it's, meeting in the middle somewhere is going to be very difficult. And I understand your point that let's take the vote and get negotiating. My point would also be start negotiating anyway, please. You know, you offer tonight, follow up, get started, and get moving on that. But I think we also have to find out a way, or try to figure out a way that, you know, a controlled way that we can get this information out for folks. I know after the last time, some folks called, and I actually got calls saying, you know, geez, they were very, very helpful, and they understood the process now, and it allayed some of those fears. Now, I don't know if every retiree has the same fears, or if they all have a fear. They may have insurance that's not a problem. But the reality is, if there's a way for us to kind of bring people together, at least on the facts, we may not all agree on the final resolution of this or the vote, but at least on the facts, so that some of these fears are allayed, that I think that may be helpful, number one. And then, you know, coming in in 2 weeks to give us a presentation, an hour and a half, will definitely be helpful, and I know we'll all have some very pointed questions, but then applying that to human beings with conditions that we're not aware of, and treatment plans we're not aware of, I think that's where it becomes difficult and very unwieldy, and it creates a chaos and the fear. So I don't know if this can be done in 2 weeks or a month or whatever the time period is, and I appreciate that you're talking about extending, and this doesn't have to be rushed. I would rather see start now and take as much time as we need. But I think that if we can figure out some kind of plan, and I know we don't have 500 people in our Human Resources Department to deal with phone calls, but bringing in Blue Cross Blue Shield, some type of advisory role where we can get answers for folks that have specific questions that they may not, after getting these answers, be as concerned.
If I may, the issue I have, and I understand, Councilor, what you're asking. The issue, though, that is different than what we had before. When we said before, you know, let's get people off of Master Medical, let's show them how their benefits would be treated under the PPO. That was simple. We had a PPO, we knew what the benefits were, we knew what the Master Medical benefits were, we could compare A to B. We don't have a plan. We don't have a plan because we haven't negotiated a plan. I can't tell the people here that, you know, this is what you have now, and this is what you'll have then, because I don't know what to have then. I can show them the GIC, and I can say, this is how that all works. And again, that's really all I can do. Now, at the end of it, when we negotiate with the unions and with the retiree at the table, and the Retirees Association has already given me the name of the individual that they've appointed for this purpose, then we can hammer out, and then people will be able to see what the difference is between what they have now and what they will have, and what the difference is in premium costs from what they had then, now, and what they will have then. So it becomes difficult to do that.
So basically, you need to get the negotiation started before you can really educate.
Right, and again, I'm more than happy to get the negotiation started, but there has to be good faith. And I'll tell you, I feel myself walking into an absolute trap here, that we're going to start negotiations. We're not going to get, we're going to have trouble reaching some type of agreement. I certainly have had good relations with the 14 unions that we worked out the last deal with. But down the road, it's going to be a problem. It has the potential to be a problem of working something out. And then I'm going to have to come back to the council and say, look, we weren't able to get this change. And you know, I'm just concerned of how that's all going to be presented and portrayed. But I'm more than happy to do that. But everyone has to sit down, and there can't be roadblocks put up that that hinder that progress.
Well, and I agree. Everyone has to understand.
Or we have to be willing to say no savings to the taxpayers for fiscal year 2013.
And I think that's what's going to fall on us. We started the process over a year ago, asking for the plan design, and the whole notion that, you know, we're rubber stamps, you're bringing this in, and it's an automatic. We started this here, and we're going to have to finish it one way or the other. We're either going to have to take the vote if you can't come up with an agreement, or we don't. And one way or the other, it's going to come down. But I think that to start negotiating now before we take a vote would make the most sense, so that when you do come up with some type of an idea or get bridge, I guess, make the gap smaller, that you can start the education piece so that maybe you can finish off. Because right now, it's, you know, it's pretty far apart in terms of the fear and maybe what the reality is. I understand your point. We don't know what the reality is because we haven't started. But, you know, I think that we got to start negotiating, and, you know, we have to follow through on this.
Thank you. Councilor Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The information piece, the education is always the piece that is first and foremost. And so I am supporting the idea of bringing the information and education to us and to anyone else who's interested. I've been thinking about the respect, the buttons, and we've talked about respect a lot. And just a story, I have a 9-year-old, and I have told him since he was a child that if he wanted something from me, even if I disagreed with him, if he spoke to me respectfully, I would listen to him. And that's a promise that I made. And I heard 3 people in particular, 2 people in particular, come to the podium and respectfully ask us to negotiate with them in good faith. Mr. Rudy, Mr. Fleming, they were kind to us. They seemed to understand our perspective. And you also have said that you have had reasonable or actually positive conversations with them. And so I understand that there's a motion on the table, but I would like to make a motion that you do negotiate with them for 3 months, using the parameters of this plan, if you'd like, to make sure that we can all come to the table and respect each other like we were told that they would do for us and like we want to do for them. So that is my motion, that we have you negotiate in good faith for 3 months, delay the vote, and if it cannot come back with something that is reasonably acceptable to you and to us, then we go and move forward with this vote.
Well, before we act on that, we already have a motion on the floor. Yes. We have a motion on the floor to meet next week at 5 o'clock. So why don't we deal with that motion first before we...
2 weeks.
I'm sorry? 2 weeks. Excuse me, 2 weeks. 2 weeks on the 23rd. Mr. Manager?
Could I respond to Councilor Dakota?
Sure.
If I may.
We're starting to lose control here.
I have no problem with that. That's exactly what I'm more than happy to do that. Within the parameters of this legislation, without the council actually taking the vote, I'm more than happy to sit down with all of the unions and Mr. DeRosa, who's been appointed by the Retirees Association of the Commonwealth, to sit down and try to hammer something out. And I believe that the council has closed the public hearing at the next meeting. Just delay that vote until, I'm looking to solicitor to make sure I'm not saying anything wrong here, and then see if we can hammer something up. More than happy to do that. That's all I want, is to start the ball rolling in negotiation. I think, Councilor, that's a perfect strategy for us to try to work and see if we can hammer something out with all of the people that need to be within the same parameters that are set forth within this legislation.
Why don't we deal with the motion that's on the floor, which is to meet in 2 weeks, have an informational meeting at 5 o'clock. Before I call for a vote, I just want people to know that I'm going to try to be as informal as we can be, to have discussions going both ways in 2 weeks. But if you are sincerely interested in making sure that you're heard, you may want to register again with the clerk's office. But we'll try to be as informal because it's going to be information sharing in 2 weeks at 5 o'clock. So Councilor Mercier.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just ask one last question, if you don't mind, through you to the city manager. If you keep saying that 14 unions were amenable to this, then why did Tom Fleming come before the podium?
No, 14 unions were amenable to the last agreement that we made of that dealt with the issue of Master Medical and the carve-out plans. And the 14 unions are still amenable to continuing, and I already met with them to discuss this, are amenable to continuing that process. They asked me, can we continue that? I said, by all means, but I need to have the school department at the table. The school unions have to be at the table. And if we address this the way Councilor Dakota has asked, and I totally agree with, then I assume that the school unions will be at the table and we will have discussions to try to hammer something out, with the understanding that we're given 3 months and then we report back whether we've made any progress or not and what the savings are going to look like.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Again, on the original motion, all those in favor of having the informational session in 2 weeks signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, it's a vote. Now to entertain Councilor Dakota's motion to ask the city manager to meet for the next 3 months, for the next 90 days. Do you wanna-
Second.
I'm sorry.
I'll second it. Or what?
You'll second that motion?
Yes.
Well, no, I wasn't seconding.
Well, I was.
Okay. But do you want to read back the motion, or do you want to basically instruct the city manager to begin the process now and report back in the next 90 days?
Yes.
Okay. Seconded by Councilor Mercia. On the motion, Councilor Mendonça?
I understand and could possibly support the motion, but I would like to take it up after this information session and not have to vote on it tonight. I'd like to hear all the information and see where we're headed, and then I'd be perfectly amenable to the motion.
Oh, and I appreciate your comments. Anyone else on the motion? I'm going to ask for a roll call. Roll call on the motion.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça?
No.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 no.
That concludes the unfinished business regarding Mass General Law, Chapter 32B. Until we get back together again in 2 weeks, I want to thank you all for being here and voicing your opinions. Why don't we take a 2-minute recess?
So, yeah, you could.
I'd like to call the meeting back to order. I'd like the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Caulfield,
Nobody's here.
Counselor Dakota,
Here.
Counselor Elliott,
Here.
Counselor Martin, Counselor Mendonça,
Here.
Counselor Mercier,
Here.
Mayor Milanazzo,
Here.
Counselor Murphy,
Yeah.
Counselor Broderick,
Here.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Thank you. We have 4 public hearings scheduled for 7 p.m. Let me open it with the first public hearing, an ordinance zoning change, Livingston Avenue area to SSF zone, suburban family, and amend section 11-1-7, notification of application of building permits. And again, let me just read it again. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Zoning by changing Livingston Avenue area property to a suburban family zoning district and amending Section 11-1-7, notification of application for building permits. Public hearing is now open for those wishing to speak in favor. For those wishing to speak in favor.
Very succinct and brief, given the late hour. Just to clarify, this zoning amendment is one of the results of the conversations that the council had last May and June in response to a development project that occurred in the Livingston Avenue area of the Highlands neighborhood that clearly did not reflect the wishes of the surrounding abutters or necessarily the intent of the council. The ordinance before you proposes 2 changes to the zoning. One would be to rezone that area of Livingston, Harvard, and portions of some of the surrounding streets from the present traditional single-family or TSF zone to the suburban single-family or SSF zone. And I do want to call out there is a typo that should be corrected in the ordinance where it refers to the suburban family district as opposed to, it should say suburban single-family district. There also is a suburban multifamily district, which we don't want to confuse with. The other change in the ordinance is that one of the issues that came up with that project was concern about when the notification sign was erected on the property. And the ordinance as it presently stands that the council adopted to require projects to post those notification signs requires the sign to be erected prior to the issuance of a building permit. But the building code allows people to apply for a foundation permit in advance of a building permit and actually construct the foundation before obtaining or even applying for the building permit. And that is essentially what happened in this case. So the proposal before you corrects that by requiring the notification sign at the time of a foundation permit application or a building permit application, whichever happens to come first. And I think that will correct, again, 2 of the issues that were raised in that incident. The only other thing I would add is that staff from the Division of Planning and Development did survey the impacted residents of this proposed zoning change, and the response was overwhelming support for the proposed change.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen, for the record, my name is Mark Ullman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. Wish to be recorded in favor of this. I spoke in favor of this before the Lowell Planning Board when it came to it as a public hearing. This is something that would be in the neighborhood characters part of the master plan, which calls for neighborhood characters. And it certainly is a result of what took place in the building of the desecration, I should say, first of all, of the house that was there. So I urge that the City Council unanimously pass this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Good evening.
Good evening. Roberta Burns, 90 Livingston Avenue. I'd like to thank first the council for their support in the single family, changing it to suburban single family from TSF. The neighborhood is forever changed, but I think going forward, the house is built, there's nothing that can be done about it at this point. But I think going forward, we can fix it so it doesn't happen again in the neighborhoods. And there are other neighborhoods in the city that need to be looked at. And I think it's a start in the right direction, and I hope you follow through. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition, public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move approval by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercier.
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. The next public hearing in City Council, order of taking and acceptance of various streets to take by eminent domain in fee certain parcels of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of the following named streets and other municipal purposes associated therewith. Portion of 17th Street, Epirus, hope I'm pronouncing that right, Drive, Elger Drive, and Ionian Circle. Public hearing is now open for those wishing to speak in favor. Those wishing to speak in favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition, the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council? Move for approval by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Dakota. Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Dakota.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
Yes.
Councilor Mercier.
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo.
Yes.
Councilor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Moving on to the utility public hearings, we have the first one is a pole location, National Grid location, one at Willie Street, 2 Andover and Nesmith Street. Public hearing is open for those wishing to speak in favor. Good evening.
My name is Dave Aguirre, and I'm representing National Grid. National Grid's asking for permission to install a pole on Nesmith Street, at the corner of Nesmith Street and Andover Street. Purpose of that pole will be to support pole 15, which is directly across the street from that pole.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition, public hearing is closed. Motion to refer to the wire inspector for report and recommendation by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. Next public hearing, National Grid, 35 feet of conduit on Jackson Street. Public hearing is open for those wishing to speak in favor.
Hi, my name is Dave Aguirre, and I'm representing National Grid, asking the city of Lowell for permission to install, let me find it. To install 35 feet of conduit to, I believe it's the Hamilton building that's going across Jackson Street.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Those wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition, public hearing is closed. Motion by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Refer to the wire inspector, report and recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed to vote. Thank you. That concludes the public hearing portion of the agenda.
Okay.
Moving back to the unfinished business. Next item, executive session. I had informed my colleagues that the executive session is going to be delayed until September 27th. I don't know if we have to take any official action, but we're withdrawing that this evening, and we'll be back up on the agenda for September 27th. Next item, a vote in City Council to extend the appointment of Brian W. Leahy as acting city clerk for additional 90 days or until such time as a successor city clerk is appointed and sworn. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows, that the City Council of the City of Lowell hereby extends the appointment of Brian W. Leahy as acting city clerk for an additional 90 days or until such time as a successor city clerk is appointed and sworn. Second reading by title. In City Council vote to extend the appointment of Brian W. Leahy as acting city clerk for additional 90 days or until such time as a successor city clerk is appointed and sworn. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you so humbly say every now and then, with all due respect, I don't support this motion with all due respect. I thank the person for their service to come out of a business venture, to come into the city to volunteer temporarily for his time to be serving as the interim city clerk while an investigation is going on. That's amenable. That's commendable, and I thank him for his service. But I think 60 days is up. I think the investigation is over. There is no investigation. It's over. There's no further charges on anybody in that office. I know that because I inquired, and that was the answer I got. So because of that fact, I appreciate the gesture. I don't know why we have assistants in City Hall. I liken it to the fact that if our superintendent of police, let's say, God forbid, had an operation or something, do we now look into the law department and call in someone, or do we look for an interim person? I can see that during an investigation. That I wasn't here for, but I completely agree to have a neutral person in there, and I understand that. But the investigation is over now. I think we ought to resume business as usual, and I think that's why we have assistants in city halls and all over, because part of their duty is when, you know, I remember some years ago when the previous city clerk was out on medical leave for 3 months, the assistant so ably took over for 3 months. If it were good enough then, why is it good enough now? This is what's puzzling to me. Furthermore, I don't know why we have to delay for 90 more days. I don't know why we're not getting on our duty at hand right now. And I question that. I have trouble understanding that. I want to know through you, Mr. Manager, we had a horrific chain of events in the treasurer's office, and we no longer have a city treasurer. Who's taking charge of the treasurer's office as we speak?
Currently, it's we have an assistant treasurer, and Mr. Moses is serving as supervisor of the office as well.
Currently, that's right, you're right, because I checked today, and currently it's the assistant treasurer that is in charge, and she is ably doing those duties. So I don't know why.
I'd rather not discuss the personnel issues of
Well, I'm not mentioning anybody's name. I'm just giving you an example that if it's all right under your purview to have the assistant, I don't know why this council cannot have an assistant there. That's strictly my opinion, and I have a right to my opinion. Maybe no one in this whole room agrees with me, and I really don't really care. But I'm saying what I feel is right, that we go through neighborhood groups and say we want to save money, and that's strictly what we try to do. So in an effort to save money, who is training the interim clerk now anyway, this is a $309 a day job, $1,545 a week, $6,180 a month, and if this person is there another 90 days, whoever that may be, it's another $18,540 for the next 90 days, more than any one of us city councilors make in a year, but be that as it may. And this isn't a professional. You know, we have a pay scale when we open it up. You'll see the job description and the pay scale from 60,000 to 81 or whatever. We started right off at the top with someone that doesn't have any inkling of any experience, and we're giving them the top pay that the previous clerk made. I think that's wrong. Had I been in executive session, we probably would have discussed that. I wouldn't have supported it, and I don't support this either. That's what we have assistants for. I don't know if we look for other people. I don't know. And another thing, how does this extra 90 days, I don't know why we're waiting so long, another 90 days. Are we going to be posting this position for 90 more days? Is this because it's after the election? I don't know, but let me ask you this. I don't understand why we need another 90 days. I don't know why we can't put the assistant in there. I don't know how this looks to anybody when we post the position to see that someone got 150 days under their belt, and is that an advantage over anybody else? I don't know, but it's the appearance and the talk that I'm hearing out there, and I want to squash it right now. So I am not supporting this move right here.
Council Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Once again, I want to echo Council Rita Mercier's comments. I want to thank Brian Leahy for coming on board and being the interim clerk for the past 60 days. Mr. Mayor, you brought it forward to the council. Mr. Mayor, you brought it forward to the council that Mr. Leahy will be brought on for 60 days. That's it, 60 days. And what we should be doing, what this council should be doing, is posting a timetable to interview candidates who want to be the city clerk. That's what we should be doing. 90 days, Mr. Mayor, you know what that takes us? That takes us December 13th.
It says 90 days or until our successor is appointed.
And that will be the last meeting of 2011. I was born at night, but not last night. And that means the new council will select the new clerk. Simple. We have an assistant clerk, have that assistant clerk do the job she was hired to do. She has done it in the past. She has done it when the previous city clerk was out on sick leave. She did it for 3 months. She came back on early maternity leave to do it. So to extend this for 90 days, and I know it will go to 90 days. What we should be doing is posting and letting people know who are interested in this job.
Right, that's the next item on the agenda.
Right.
That's the next item on the agenda.
And it should be done, the new clerk should be hired before the election. That's my feelings.
Okay. On the vote, I would entertain a motion. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand the point of Council Mercier and Council Caulfield. Under the circumstances when you brought this in, under the extenuating circumstances, I agreed that we should have an independent person for the time being. At that time, I know at least one or a couple of members asked if Mr. Leahy was going to just come on a temporary basis, and the response was yes, just temporary. And he's indicated that he may apply for this now, so that's a concern, which he's entitled to, absolutely. So I guess my point is, under the circumstances, we didn't post it before. Should we have posted it? Is there some, is there some legal requirement that we should be posting a public position for everyone to apply for at the outset? Maybe there's some provision. I don't know, but if he is going to apply for it, then that's to some degree given somewhat of an unfair advantage to other applicants, I think. So I agree. We have an assistant city clerk. The premise was we wanted an independent person at that time. There are no more criminal charges. She was never part of any part of any investigation. And as was mentioned before, we have assistants. Assistants are in place. There's a requirement to have assistants in the event that something does happen. And I don't think it sends a good message either if we just overlook an assistant clerk that's been there for 23 years, who actually came to service Friday night when to do a marriage certificate so an individual could get married the following day. And I haven't spoken to her, by the way, about this at all whatsoever, so I want to be clear about that. But so I just wanted to express those opinions, and I think we should give her a shot.
Thank you. On this, Councilor Martin.
Could I, where are we with the dates? The original appointment was for,
60 days,
when is that up?
September 22nd.
22nd? So, now I appreciate the efforts of the assistant clerk too, and this is new territory, at least for me. You know, we have 3 employees the council is responsible to hire: the manager, the auditor, and the clerk. I've been through a couple manager searches, only one with the auditor, but in all those cases, those were posted and advertised. So I think we should do that for the new clerk. And whether the acting clerk or the assistant clerk or other people are going to be applicants, I think we owe it to the citizens of the city to see who's interested. I think those prior searches, obviously manager's more high profile than the auditor, but I think it leads to good results. It's sometimes reaffirming that people are interested in Lowell, and good people want to come work here. And we may find that we have the best person right here already, but I think we owe it to people to look. So I agree with Councilor Caulfield. If we want to get on, you know, we should be looking at interviewing, hiring a new clerk. I think there's some issue with whether you do that, you know, just before an election, before there's a new council. If is it right to defer that to the new council in January? I don't know. I don't particularly care about that. I don't know who's interested in the job. I haven't talked to the acting clerk about it. I haven't talked to the assistant clerk about it. But I think we should be, and I think we should be meeting with the clerk to see what he's found out about the office too. We haven't done that either.
I believe we'll have a report next week.
So everybody is, you know, we've had an issue in the office, and everybody's kind of been, you know, sitting on their hands waiting for that to be resolved. So, I'm happy. I don't know. I think we're not going to have somebody in place on the 22nd. So I think some extension is in order until at least there's a new person in place. And, you know, whether we need to put an outer limit on the time, I'm open to suggestions. But at least my view is we need to decide whether this council's going to pick the new person, and then we need to just set a time frame. And I think in any of those scenarios, if we adopt them, then we're going to need some sort of extension past the date we have now. I don't know what others feel, but those are my observations on this.
Thank you. Councilman Mendoza?
A couple of things. I don't know if we have answers to them now, but I have this vague recollection that there's some limitations on when we can appoint people around election. So if we could get a report from the solicitor, not necessarily tonight, if there are any such limitations, what they are, what window it is, because it could be sometime after October till the next council comes in. I don't know. The other thing that I have is it's already a lean operation in the city clerk's office. And my concern is if the assistant becomes the acting, do we have to backfill the assistant? Or is it very understaffed at that point? And obviously I don't have the answer to that, but I am concerned about reducing the staffing further. Off the top of my head, I have nothing against the assistant clerk or no opinion of the acting clerk at this time. I'm just thinking of how many people are going to be in the office, and if by having the extension, we can maintain the number of people working in the office. We don't have to reduce it or go through some backfill operation. So that's my concern right now. I really haven't decided yet which way to go on this.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion on Council Murphy?
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, to yourself, I guess if we could get some kind of explanation as to what was the thought process behind, not only extending it, but extending it for 90 days.
The thought process was, if I could from the chair, the thought process was to extend for an additional 90 days or until a successor is named. And as my colleagues have indicated, we should do that forthwith. And we do have a job description that we'll discuss, and based upon that discussion, probably instruct the mayor's office, working with the HR department, to post that position, take applications, and then circulate those resumes to the full council. And I would hope that we could get that accomplished in 30 to 45 days. And then the acting clerk would then, we would then have a new clerk in place within that time frame.
For example, if there is an issue there with the staffing, as Councilor Mendonça suggested, and this motion didn't pass, then how would that be addressed?
Again, I'm going to support, keeping the acting clerk in place. I'm not looking to backfill any positions. I think next week when we do get a report from the acting city clerk, I believe it's, a couple dozen pages, we're going to look at some of the deficiencies that are now taking place in the city clerk's office. And I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, but I think they have to be addressed. And I'm comfortable with the acting clerk that we have there for the additional 90 days until a new city clerk is installed. That's my position, and I'm not taking anything away from the assistant clerk. My understanding, she's been very helpful to the acting city clerk, but it does, as Councilman Mendonça said, come down to workload, making sure that we have enough people on staff to make sure, as we uncover things that are going or need to be looked at in that office, we need to make sure that we have the right tools that we need in order to move forward. Did you want to be heard again, Councilor Mercier?
I think it's an insult to the person that started out very young and put in 23 years and is doing 2 jobs. I don't think in her job description it said that she was a teacher or a trainer, but she's doing 2 jobs on $30,000 less a year in my observation. And yes, I have been down there to the office looking around because I think it's my duty. I don't see any problem, but I do see one person that's overworked because she is now a teacher, and that is not right. This council knows that it isn't right.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to get some clarification on, I never heard of this. What I have heard is you can't grant a raise 3 months before the end of a term. I believe that's what it is. There's nothing about selecting or appointing, the council selecting or appointing a clerk or an auditor. Matter of fact, I don't know when we appointed the auditor, that could have been in an election year. So I'll look to see if that was, but I never heard of that.
It's the money, it's a raise.
Right, there's, I myself have given opinions in the past regarding the raise issue, and there is language prohibiting within a certain period of time. And it's fairly broad as well. I think it may be as long as 3 months, although I'd have to double check with respect to a raise during an election year.
Mr. Mayor, if that's the case, we appointed, elected Brian Leahy to fill in as the acting clerk.
Correct.
Were we in violation if that rule holds? Again,
his appointment's only until September 22nd.
I think what this council should do, Mr. Mayor, tonight is advertise Mass Municipal Association, the Globe, the Herald, the Lowell Sun, the position, and set a timetable for interviews. That's the most important thing we should be doing.
Correct. But again, this appointment expires next September 22nd, next, Thursday, a week from Thursday. So, in my opinion, we need to have some continuity there, at least until we go through this search for a new city clerk. So the vote is to extend the contract. Again, please vote. But again, getting back, is there a motion on the floor? There is no motion on the floor. So again, before we can take a vote, I need a motion.
Can I make an amendment to that motion that's before us? And say that we appoint the assistant city clerk as of the 26th on a Monday? The 26th on a Monday, we put the assistant city clerk in place like she's supposed to be there,
So you-
or whoever the heck the
So you're
person-
moving in substitution
Yes,
to
I
appoint the
am.
assistant city clerk on Monday, September
26th.
26th.
Yes.
Second.
Seconded by Council Caulfield. Any further discussion on that substitute motion? Roll call.
Counselor Caulfield.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Council Dakota?
Or excuse me, Counselor Dakota.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
No.
Councilman Donson.
Yes.
Counselor Mercier.
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo.
No.
Counselor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Broderick.
No.
6 yeas, 3 noes.
Okay, so the assistant city clerk will be appointed as acting city clerk on September 26th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on with the agenda, to approve the job description, the city clerk, and authorize the posting of such. You have in your packets a draft job description. And City Council vote to accept and approve the September 2011 job description for the position of city clerk as attached. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows, that the City Council of the City of Lowell accepts and approves the September 2011 job description for the position of city clerk. Second reading by title, and City Council vote to accept and approve the September 2011 job description for the position of city clerk as attached. What's the wish of the council? Council Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an excellent job for this job description, but I would like to bring your attention to the summary, the opening paragraph.
Yes.
And delete the line, may direct election activities and census. This elected body is going to elect a city clerk. We can't expect this elected body to have the city clerk handling election issues. That falls under the jurisdiction of the election office.
No, it falls under the city solicitor, Council Caulfield.
What does?
It's the election office.
Well,
falls under the city solicitor. And again, this was a compilation of job descriptions for city clerks from other communities, and most cities actually do have the city clerk may direct election activities and census. And if you want to remove that, that's fine. I'll probably actually support that, not to upset the apple cart. But they do report to the city solicitor, not to the city manager, and the election commission does their work during the election season, but the employees work under the direction of the solicitor.
but we're under the Plan E charter, Mr. Mayor.
And that's under the Plan E charter.
Plan E charter.
That's under the Plan E charter, Council Caulfield.
And we'd have to amend the charter.
No, we would not.
You're telling me that the city clerk will have jurisdiction over the election office?
I would defer that to the solicitor, but right now...
Why hasn't, for 50 years, why hasn't that been the case?
As far as the election office, as the mayor had indicated, for several years now, the election office has come under the law department. As the mayor had also indicated, all towns in the Commonwealth have the election functions under the clerk's office. I've never done a survey, but I think in all likelihood the majority of cities operate under that scenario as well, even large cities like Worcester and others. As far as the city of Lowell, if that were ever done, that's something that would have to be looked at in terms of how mechanically we'd go about doing it and if it would make sense. As far as having it in the job description, it simply recognizes that those that would apply for the job potentially may come with election experience, and it certainly is something that provides options for the city in the future. You can take it out or you can leave it in. There's nothing, leaving it in certainly doesn't make it mandatory. I know that there has been some discussion about how the language came in. There was reports, erroneous, in the newspaper regarding this as well. The job description was prepared by the HR department. It was the, I forget his title, but he's an assistant HR personnel, Connor Baldwin. And it was based on another city's job description, since we didn't have one. One of the things that occurred just prior to it coming out was the mayor rather, had requested that I take a look at the draft that was done. When I looked at that draft, it had caught my eye that it was mandatory. So the language I had suggested be made permissive. And so the language was in there. I made it, suggested that it be made permissive, and that's where we are today. Again, if you want to take it out, you can, but both the mayor and I thought that this language should be before the council because it is in keeping with what all towns do, and in fact probably a majority of cities do throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And in all likelihood, whoever you will get for applicants for this position probably will come with that type of experience and probably will provide an opportunity for the council and the manager, if they so desire, to be able to take a look at that down in the future. And it may be that that's something that ultimately makes more sense for the city. It may be that it doesn't. That's all that language is in there for. It certainly doesn't bind anybody to it.
And it says may direct, doesn't say will direct or shall direct, it says may direct. But if you want,
I move to delete it.
motion by Councilor Caulfield to delete may direct election activities and census. Second by Councilor Mercia. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Roll call.
I have discussion.
Councilor Martin.
So how do we run the census now?
Mr. Manager?
Through the election office.
So is it annually required, I believe?
Yes, it is. Yes.
And the election office sends that out, so.
That's correct.
That wouldn't fall under the clerk.
Under this, if the necessary changes are made to do that, yes.
I suppose we could, if we wanted to change it, we could, right?
You could. I think the way it's written, and I haven't really looked at that carefully, to tell you the truth. I think the wording is may, so it leaves open the opportunity. Otherwise, the job description would have to be revised at some point in the future.
Right. Okay.
Any further? Councilor Elliott?
Why was it put in? We either want it in or we don't want it in. Why may? I guess is my question.
Again,
and who did put it in? I guess.
To be clear, it was, since it became a question, it was put in by the HR department. They had drafted up the job description. The city didn't have one. It was based on job descriptions that they had acquired, and they're still acquiring some, from other cities, and they have some staple cities that they're getting these from. That's how it got in there. Apparently, it then went directly to the mayor. The mayor had contacted me and asked if I had an opportunity to review it, which I hadn't. I hadn't seen it, and I didn't know it was done. I contacted HR. I got a copy of it. When I looked at it, and again, the election function has been under the law department for several years now. When I looked at it, I knew that as written, that was not how we currently do things. So I suggested that it be permissive. The advantage of having it as a permissive function is that in the event that you have a city clerk who has that experience, and the council or the manager, through discussions, decide that this is the way to go, that it's a greater efficiency or whatever the reason is, you want to be, in keeping with the majority of other cities, if that's in fact the case, and I'm not sure. This at least makes it clear to whoever the applicant is that they may or may not be required to do this. And it wouldn't require any adjustment of salary. It's just this may be one of the duties that they are someday called upon to do. Nothing more than that.
So, don't we have an election commission?
That's correct. We have election commissioners.
So when you say it's being run out of the law department, my understanding was that it was always, a commission is set up by statute and part of the charter to run elections completely independent of any governing body, any entity, to remove the political nature of it. So are you telling me even reporting requirements are from the election commission, the chairman, to the Secretary of State?
Right. The election commission doesn't, say, oversee the budget. They don't oversee the personnel, the day-to-day functioning of the office. There's an office manager. There's an office manager in that office who reports directly to me. We have meetings several times over the course of a month, particularly as of late. We've had several meetings because of the upcoming elections. On the day of elections, I will come in, I will make myself available. I am here at City Hall until the final tallies are made. If there are questions that come up of a legal nature, if you notice.
And is that, is that by ordinance or by statute that someone reports to you?
That's by organization of the city. So there are, as you've probably observed, with respect to the budget, for example, Tom Moses, under finance, oversees a number of different departments.
Right.
In the law department, we oversee, we have tax title, we have workers' comp, and 111F benefits. We have license commission. The license commissioners obviously act in an autonomous way. However, the budget, the personnel, the evaluations of those personnel, all of those things are done through the law department. If there are personnel issues, disciplinary issues, which may or may not come up, those are handled ultimately by me. So I work in conjunction with, and have for several years now, the manager for the elections office.
Thank you. You're welcome. Any other questions? We have a motion to amend the job description as noted. Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
What's the wish of the council? Councilor Mendoza.
I'll move approval of the job description as amended.
Motion to approve the job description as amended, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Roll call. Oh, any discussion?
Well,
Councilor Martin.
is it just in the authorize the posting that, I'm just reading the agenda and the vote. Is this for,
I'm sorry, to accept and approve the,
right, we're going to post this and advertise it now and solicit applications? Is that?
correct.
Okay.
Work through the HR department, and as Councilor Caulfield mentioned, Mass Municipal Association, Boston Globe, the Herald, and so forth.
All right.
So we'll work with the HR department. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mayor,
Councilor, oh, I'm sorry.
Solicitor wanted to...
City Solicitor?
Just a quick question. Also, as a further amendment, the thorough knowledge of state and local election statutes and regulations preferred, I think should be eliminated as well.
That's under qualifications, the last sentence, thorough knowledge of state and local election statute and regulations preferred, it says, but if you want to take that out, we can remove that as well.
I mean, it would serve no purpose.
It serves, correct, it would serve no purpose.
At this
Okay.
point.
Motion by Councilor
Motion to
Martin,
strike.
seconded by Councilor Elliott to further amend it to remove that language. Councilor Mendoza?
We just talking about the 2 words, local election statutes? Leaving the rest?
There is a qualification, thorough knowledge of state and local election statutes and regulations preferred. The only reason that language is in there, again, is because it was based on other job descriptions. But if that's not going to come to play, then that's really not a qualification that we'd be looking for.
Okay, so the entire phrase, thorough through preferred.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
We just take out thorough.
Okay, with that change, roll call on the job description as further amended and begin the posting process. Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Before we move on, I just want to thank the HR department and the law department for their assistance in putting this job description together. Okay, going back to the agenda under communications, we're at the city manager's portion of the agenda. First item is to review communications from the city manager. Anybody have anything they want to bring forward? Summary of the communications in the packet. We need a motion by Councilor
Move
Elliott,
to
second by
approve.
Councilor Dakota, to suspend the rules to actually discuss this because it was inadvertently left off the agenda. So motion to suspend the rules to discuss the city manager's communication summary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, vote. We have a motion by Council Martin to accept the communications placed on file.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one request, and that was a past motion that I made about the HVAC and the, at the Stocklosa School and the heating. Do we have any information as to what's transpiring over there for school time?
Let me get that.
Because I know they're doing something, I just don't know what.
They were doing some,
And I know they're ordering
alterations
parts.
there, right. Let me get that for you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mendoza?
Yes, I had received the information from the manager regarding the fees for sealer of weights and measures, and I appreciate it. And I don't want to sound like it's critical of the decision to outsource. I do still support that, and it is a savings to the city as it is. But in looking it over, I do see that most of the communities are running a surplus. They receive more revenue than they're contracting out to do the service. I understand the rationale that you're using population to show we're not paying much per capita. But to me, the real thing is how many inspections are being done? How many devices do we have to inspect? And based on the fees, not as much, I think, as it's costing us in the contract. So going forward, I do think we can achieve greater savings, or we can have find more devices that need to be inspected and get greater revenue. As far as the NIMCOG is concerned, from what I'm looking at, I see us as being basically the critical mass that gives them the ability to have a full-time person to do this. Maybe not, but I'm saying clearly giving by what fees are being charged, our fee puts them over the top, I think, as far as how much they're receiving to provide the service. So I'd like to see us negotiate some better deal in the future. Again, either they agree to do more inspections for us that we see cost that much, but then we'll get that much in revenue.
Right. If I could, and Mr. Bakey's going to speak to this, but NIMCOG does have more than one person that does this. It is, I believe it's 1.5 people, because Lowell requires so much attention. And this is the startup year for Lowell, and we've only had it in, for instance, we've only had it in place for a month. And I know that from a stat meeting that we had today, I didn't get any specific numbers because it's still being tabulated, but NIMCOG came in with the deposits for us yesterday, and it's the most number of checks we've ever received at one time for the sealer of weights and measures function. And I think what you're going to find is, in fact, there are more devices in the city, substantially more devices. And again, the outsourcing is considerably less than having the employee. But on top of that, I think you're going to find, we'll need a full 12 months to do this, but you're going to find that there will not be as much of a loss. There may even be a net gain. But I'll ask Mr. Bakey to speak to that.
I don't have too much to add to that, other than to say that we have had discussions with NIMCOG about the fee structure and the contract structure. And the couple important points. The price that they are charging this year for our contract is based on the fact that they are starting up a new program with us. And in so doing, they actually had to hire an additional person 25 hours a week above what their staffing level had been for this function prior to us joining. And so that was an added cost on their end. The other added cost, which really has to do with starting it up with us, is they had a tremendous amount of work to do to build a database and really get an understanding of the extent of the need and the number of properties in the city that have the need for sealing weights and measures, and really establish new procedures which just did not exist in any formal way prior to them taking on. So there was an expectation on their part and on our part that there were some costs associated with spending the time establishing those procedures and establishing that program that were not going to be recoverable through the fees because they weren't directly related to inspecting a particular facility. In order to recover them, we would have had to jack our fees way up in an unfair way, frankly. But the corollary to that, though, is that we and they have already had a conversation expecting that what we will be charged next year will be consistent with what we are receiving in terms of revenue. Now, we also are optimistic and actually even more optimistic as a result of seeing the first month's revenues coming in, that revenues may actually exceed the projection that we made. And the projection we're making is already more than double what was being collected under the old system in Lowell. And it is conceivable that we may come close. I don't believe we will equal what we're paying, but we may come close. And obviously, we will be subsidizing it to a degree that is far below what we were subsidizing in any of the past several years under the old model. So I think this year will be a dramatic improvement, and going forward, we really do hope to equalize. And we put the information in about what's going on in the other communities that NEMCOG has served for some time to illustrate the fact that they are capable of operating the program in a way that is revenue neutral with the fee structure that we have adopted, because we adopted it to match what they've done in the other communities. So we believe, and in fact we believe we may even be in a better place over time, because there's an economy of scale associated with the volume of activity in Lowell. So again, this year there will be some subsidy. It's a lot less than what's been in the past, but it is our expectation that in the future there will not be subsidy anymore.
I appreciate that. I've already noticed that just from the information I received at the last meeting to this one, there's been an increase in the fee estimates and therefore a reduction in what we're subsidizing. I certainly look forward to that increasing. If it's a small subsidy, I don't mind, but I don't want it to be 50%. And I'm willing to give you the time to work out this year. But going forward, I think after the startup costs are done, that we should be fairly revenue neutral as far as, well, cost neutral in the sense that the revenues and the costs will be the same going forward.
That is our goal.
Thank you.
Anything else on the communications?
I just had one follow-up question to that, Mayor. The memo indicates the startup costs, or upfront costs. How much is that, or how much was that to the city?
I don't think we can put a precise dollar number on it, but I think you can look at the amount that we're showing as a subsidy, which is about $12,000, as probably the majority of that representing the startup costs. Again, it's our expectation, and NEMCOG shares this expectation in the conversations we've had with them, that we will be working toward an operation that next year will be as close to, again, revenue or cost neutral, depending how you look at it, as possible, which will eliminate those startup costs. Now, there are two possibilities. One is that our revenue will be more than what we are projecting here, which will reflect that there is more work out there because there are more devices to inspect, and therefore the contract next year may be at a very similar level to what it is this year, but the revenues will be there to match it. Or we will find this year that, in fact, the projections of the number of devices and therefore the amount of revenue coming in are actually about right, in which case we expect that the contract payment we would make would actually be less because we would not have those one-time startup costs associated with it. So either way, we'd be approaching an unsubsidized operation, which really is our goal.
So two things. What are some of those costs? I'm just curious that if they're in fact one time that we're paying this year.
Well, the biggest cost really has to do with identifying and documenting all of the facilities in the community that require this operation.
So currently we don't have an idea of.
We did not inherit any database that was comprehensive, identifying which facilities in the city require this inspection in the past. The number of facilities that have been inspected in the past has varied dramatically from year to year, so there's no real model. So one of the things that NEMCOG has had to do, and they're well underway with doing, is really identify clearly the scope of the work that's necessary. It's all estimates on our part at this point because we have no good track record in the past. Then there is obviously the other thing we lack from the past is any clear set of procedures and operations for how to actually address those facilities, which are being established right now by NEMCOG, obviously very effectively. The final thing, as I explained earlier, is that NEMCOG had some costs on their end in terms of actually having to increase their staffing because Lowell actually represents practically a doubling of the amount of weights and measures activities that they undertake, and they had to add an additional 25-hour-a-week person. We do not expect that those costs, any of those costs, will apply to next year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions in communications? Councilor Dakota?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This question is response to about a response to a motion that Councilor Martin made regarding the Lowell Sun building, the old Sun building. And there were provisions, I'm going to ask Mr. Backey to answer this question if he knows, that the building owners needed to manage a move for the tenants in the building, for the old Lowell Sun building on Merrimack Street. I did notice that Freshies is gone now, and I just wanted to find out if that was part of that agreement and if they were served by the landlord, their move. There's no information on the window.
Again, I'm just going to caution my colleagues, that's not on the agenda, it's not in the report. So we have to have a motion to suspend the rules to bring that up.
Motion to suspend.
Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Caulfield to suspend the rules to discuss the Lowell Sun building. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed to vote. Mr. Bakie?
The Lowell Sun building downtown, which is the 10-story high-rise building we have in downtown Lowell, a number of structural engineers have been looking at that building recently and have determined that there is some issues with the connection between the facade of the building and the structural frame of the building inside, and that is causing elements of the brick facade, which is not structural, to spall off the building. The scaffold was put in place as a sort of partial measure for protection. Over the next few weeks, they will be implementing a much more substantial measure of protection for the sidewalks as they look to also design the more permanent repairs for the building that will occur. They are also trying to finance those repairs, but that work will presumably occur beginning in the spring, and it will be about a year. So we're looking at probably another 18 months or so of scaffold, although the scaffolding will be much more substantial, much more solid, much more structurally solid, but also more visually transparent and more attractive than what's there at present for that period of time. With respect to relocating people, at one point, one of the structural engineers that had looked at the building on behalf of the owners raised some concerns about possibly needing to do some work on the interior of the building that would have necessitated relocating some of the tenants out of the building. They have subsequently had another structural engineering firm with greater experience in this type of buildings look at the building and determine that it does not appear that that will be necessary at this time. So it does not, at this point, based on what their structural engineers have submitted to us, we do not expect that there would be any need to relocate tenants. To get to your question about Freshies, we don't actually have any information about why that business appears to have closed, but it does not appear to be related to the structural concerns of the building. It is conceivable that the presence of the scaffold affected their business, but and there wasn't a direct sort of structural reason for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't take that long. It's been a very long meeting. On the illegal dumping, thank you, Mr. Manager, for getting that communication to us. And I want to thank Sean Shanahan and Gunther Wallenstein for installing those cameras at Plain and Foundry Avenue. And you can rest assured, I don't think anyone is going to be dumping anything there in the near future. But there is still illegal dumping throughout the city, so I plan on having a neighborhood subcommittee meeting, and I'd like to have it next week, Monday or Tuesday, to address that. And we also have requests, public safety subcommittee meeting about the residential signs. So I'd like to combine that, probably at 5 o'clock and try to get that issue out of the way. So if the committee could meet on Monday or Tuesday, could, I know that, are you on the neighborhood subcommittee?
Yeah,
Monday?
I think I am
And-
too. Tuesday?
Could we meet Tuesday at 5?
I don't think we're ready.
Yes.
Oh, Tuesday at 5,
Yes.
fine. Yeah.
Okay. And we'll start the process, and there's been a lot of discussion about having, say, 1 day a month for bringing refuge and so forth, but we have to bring that forward and get a feel, Mr. Manager, and find out what we can do to alleviate this problem, okay?
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to have a neighborhood subcommittee meeting next Tuesday at 5 o'clock
Yeah.
to discuss the issue of illegal dumping.
Neighborhood subcommittee meeting for 45 minutes, and then for 45 minutes, a public safety subcommittee meeting. Well, we can go as long as we want,
Right.
really, because there's no council meeting.
Correct. The public safety has
You know
already
what, excuse me, Mayor, I believe that parking issue was referred to the neighborhood subcommittee.
Was it really?
council, yeah.
Okay, so it'll be a
I'm pretty
neighborhood-
sure I brought the motion and it was referred to the neighborhood.
So it'll be a neighborhood subcommittee
Okay.
meeting on 2 issues.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Anything else under communications? Councilor Murphy, then Councilor Mendonça.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There were a number of responses. I'll just stick with one for tonight. There was a response to the motion about the Butler School property, and it was suggested that an outside group from the Harvard School of Graduate Design had caused the department to really rethink the idea of keeping that in lieu of the possibility of being able to transform the Prince factory behind it. And so it's suggested here that we consider some proposals, soliciting proposals. I would just make that in the form of the motion to bring back something to the council for a vote. In the meantime, I would ask through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager, whether we've looked into removing that from the National Register of Historic Places in the event that, we don't have any, proposals returned, basically. So that if we do decide after that process to be able to demolish that it wouldn't be as costly to the city.
Let's deal with Councilor Murphy's motion first to
Sure.
get a simple.
Well, it is regarding the Butler, and I can address the second question, but it's
is it
not.
on the National Register?
It is on the National Register of Historic Places, and the restrictions that apply to the use of state or federal funds to do anything that would be harmful to the building, the wording of the applicable state and federal laws is either listed or eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. So the fact that it has been listed means whatever we choose to do, it's going to be eligible. So we're not really in a place where taking it off changes the dynamic for us in terms of our ability to use grant funds to demolish the building. Now, what increases the costs of the demolition to the city is actually not the fact that it's historic, but it is the public procurement requirements that we have to follow, and particularly the prevailing wage laws that we have to follow, that cause our costs to be higher than what a private party might have to pay to do the same demolition work.
Right. I guess it would depend on what really caused it to be listed in the first place. And if it was caused, they have a number of criteria that allow you to list it on the National Register. And if it was listed because of, craftsmanship, say, then clearly it wouldn't be eligible either way because it's falling apart. But the motion is really just to solicit those proposals, and the request to look into removing it was in the case that nothing came back.
Okay, so we have a motion to solicit proposals regarding the Butler School property, seconded by Councilor Mendonça.
That was actually what I wanted to speak on, was that very And I did want to ask where we needed to keep this moving forward, so I'll support Councilor Murphy's motion, just so we can move forward with getting proposals, if any, and know where we stand, but just keep the effort moving forward on this property.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
no.
I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. Councilor Elliott?
We just received a response to a motion on the investment, city investments, and I just want to refer it to the Finance Subcommittee, that's all.
Okay. Motion by Councilor Elliott to refer the response on the city's investment to the Finance Subcommittee. Second by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Anything else on the communication? Hearing none. Motion by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Dakota to accept the communications placed on file. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Next item, we have 5 out-of-state travel requests. We have 4 new ones, 1 revised, 1 for DPD, 4 for the Lowell Police Department. Motion to take them as one by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor of taking them as one vote signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Any questions, comments, concerns about the out-of-state travel requests? Motion by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Broderick to accept them as presented. Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield,
Yes.
Councilor Dakota,
Yes.
Councilor Elliott,
Yes.
Councilor Martin,
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça,
Yes.
Councilor Mercier,
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo,
Yes.
Councilor Murphy,
Yes.
Councilor Broderick,
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. Next item, we have an ordinance in City Council, an ordinance amending the code of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Zoning by extending the existing traditional mixed-use zoning district to include the area of 390 Pawtucket Street, and it gets referred to a public hearing on October 4th. We do have to adopt the planning board recommendation.
It's my daughter's birthday. When? My daughter's birthday.
Okay. We have 3 options before us. We can adopt the ordinance as drafted, send that to a public hearing for October 4th. We can adopt the planning board recommendation, which is in the packet on the TMF, and then accept that and refer that to the law department for report and recommendation. Or option 3, if we want the DPD to get involved, to speak with the owner at 406 Pawtucket Street to see if the owner wants to be included in the TMZ zone, then that would be referred to the city managers for report and recommendation. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering, because it was the request of the owner at 390 Pawtucket Street, from what I'm understanding, to be included in the TMU zone, traditional multi-use, which means that they were just extending it over. But the recommendation of the planning department said that they'd prefer that it was a TMF zone, a traditional multi-family zone. And so they would prefer that, but they didn't know if it would constitute spot zoning. So we'd need a ruling on that anyway before we decide what we were going to do. So
Okay, so it should be referred to the law department?
I think so. We need to get a ruling first.
Okay. Motion by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Mendonça, that we send this planning board report on the zoning of 390 Pawtucket Street with ordinance to the city solicitor's office for a report. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed to vote. Thank you. The next item in City Council order, designating the intersection of Central Street and North Street in the City of Lowell the Francis J. Betancourt Memorial in honor of Francis J. Betancourt. Whereas the city is desirous of honoring Francis J. Betancourt, now therefore it is ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell that the intersection of Central Street and North Street in the City of Lowell is hereby designated Francis J. Betancourt Memorial in honor of Francis J. Betancourt. Second reading by title, if there's no objection, in City Council order, designating the intersection of Central Street and North Street in the City of Lowell the Francis J. Betancourt Memorial in honor of Francis J. Betancourt.
Move approval.
Move for approval by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Caulfield. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, just by way of explanation, Mr. Betancourt is a was awarded the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, and he served as a member of a veterans organization in the Lowell veterans community for 3 decades. He had an extensive military background and was known throughout the veterans community. And so he does meet all the criteria as set forth in the policies of the city for recognition for this square.
Can I say
Councilor
something?
Caulfield.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention something about Frank Betancourt, who was a very proud Portuguese American and proud veteran who served this country with pride and distinction. He was seriously wounded in the Second World War, and always was proud of the fact he served the country and he lived in this great city. And he carried himself extremely well, and whenever I was in his company, he was always the perfect gentleman. And I think this is wonderful that we're naming that corner after a great American, Frank Betancourt.
Thank you. Councilor Mendoza.
Yes, I knew Frank. He was the commander of the Portuguese American Veterans when I joined the organization. It's amazing what he has accomplished with the disability that he received in World War II. He was shot in the neck and he's lost the use of his right arm, being right-handed at the time. Yet he went on to train himself to write and use his left hand, and was even an avid bowler into his later years. He passed away earlier this year, and I think this is a fitting tribute to him.
Thank you. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I knew him as well. They don't come any better than Mr. Betancourt. Could we be notified when this ceremony takes place? Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Yeah, I agree. He wasn't afraid to tell you how he felt, and he was proud of his heritage. I think we all got calls from him regularly, and it was mostly a pleasure to return them, sometimes not, but he was going to tell you how it is. So he must be just happy as a lark right now, knowing that we're dedicating this to this, because this is probably the last thing that he would want.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
The City Council order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell concerning Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days, whereas the City of Lowell desires to make temporary rules regulating traffic under actual conditions for a period of 60 days, and whereas Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lowell, Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations authorizes the City Council to make such temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Now therefore be it ordered, adjudged, and decreed by the City Council of the City of Lowell as follows. Effective immediately for a period of 60 days thereafter, the following temporary traffic regulations shall be implemented. Section 266-53, 1 hour parking area is hereby amended by deleting the following. Fayette Street on the westerly side, the entire length. Section 266-56, parking prohibited on certain streets at all
Mayor?
times.
I want to make a motion to waive the full reading. This is quite a lengthy document.
Motion by Councilor Elliott to waive the full reading, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor of waiving the full reading signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Second reading by title in City Council order pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move approved by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to belabor any issue, but I think it's well known that I should say something about Abbott Street. And in 2002, I made the motion to put a handicap parking sign there. And with the refurbishing of the streets, it was knocked down, and I brought it forward again to put the sign back up, only to know that back then in 2002, somehow it wasn't recorded properly or whatever, it wasn't made legal, but uncovering that, which it's going to be legal tonight, but uncovering that, I don't think people realized, but on the books and the ordinance, we have a traffic engineer, and Eric Eby, and I want people to realize that, and I didn't realize this in all the years that I've been here, handicap parking signs are supposed to be renewed every year. And we've never done that because nobody ever really knew that. And so now we're beginning to do that. So what happens is it's very simple if people can just go onto the city website and print out the application, just fill it in again and send it off, or fax it off, or email it off, or whatever, and it'd be okay to do that. It has to be done by every January 1st, or thereabouts, so that we can get a handle on what signs should be there, what signs are no longer supposed to be there. Someone probably died or moved or whatever, and the sign should come down. But, I mean, we have to start this campaign, I guess, all over again for people to be notifying the city that they want to keep it. And we're not going to deny them. It's just that it'll give us an idea that it's legitimate, and yes, you can have it for another year. We'll mark it off that it's still utilized. So I just thought I'd say that because I think it's important to know.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Danza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Mr. Mayor, do we have to take a vote to
Correct,
continue?
we do. We have to
Motion
make
to
a waive rule, what is it, 5 regarding the 10
Motion
o'clock?
to suspend Rule 5.
By Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor
For how long?
Caulfield.
Roll
Half
call.
an hour?
Pardon me?
For half an hour?
Or until the business is finished.
Two goes would get us.
We're just waiving to go past 10 o'clock. We need a roll call.
10 o'clock now.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Oh, I guess so, yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
No.
8 yeas, 1 no.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Billy, you blew it.
In City Council vote authorizing the city manager to enter into a license agreement with Unity Place LLC of 517 Moody Street, Lowell, to encroach upon the City of Lowell property for the purpose of installation and maintenance of 3 bollards located within sidewalk area at Moody Street. Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Mendoza to waive the full reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed to the vote. Second reading by title in City Council vote authorizing the city manager to enter into a license agreement with Unity Place LLC of 517 Moody Street to encroach upon the City of Lowell property for the purpose of installation and maintenance of 3 bollards located within the sidewalk area of Moody Street, Lowell. I see Attorney Flood is here representing the...
Unity Place, yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, James Flood representing Unity Place. I do have, I don't know were the plans attached to the license agreement? I have plans and pictures to show you what we're talking about. The building's up now. I don't know, there's pictures in there too, Rodney, whether you people have seen the building, but National Grid placed the transformer on the front side of that building, and in order to protect it, we need bollards, and that's why we're requesting a license to have them on the sidewalk. There's plenty of room to move through the sidewalk. It meets all requirements, but this transformer has to be protected. I also have our engineer with us if anyone has any engineering questions.
Thank you, and we appreciate your patience.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Council Elliott, second by Council Martin. Any discussion, questions? Council Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So these bollards won't create any handicap issues?
No.
Perfect.
The city engineer also has approved this, so.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Danza?
Yes.
Counselor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations on a nice project. Thank you. Next item. We have a communication from the city manager. Dear Mayor Milonazo, members of the city council, this is to advise you I will be attending the annual International City County Management Association Conference in Milwaukee from September 17th through September 21st. Attendance at this conference is pursuant to Section 8, leave in my contract with the city of Lowell. I'm requesting that the city council designate Thomas Moses, CFO, as acting city manager during the above stated period. Thank you for your anticipated courtesy in this regard. Very truly yours, Bernard F. Lynch. Accept the communication and place on file by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion to approve Tom Moses as acting city manager for that period.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Mendonça. Roll call.
Counselor Caulfield?
Yes.
Counselor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Donka?
Yes.
Counselor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Councilor Elliott.
I just want to ask the manager, Mr. Manager, do you anticipate attending any forums or meetings at the Managers Association relative to healthcare costs and?
I'll see if, I actually don't think they have any on healthcare costs, but if I find some, I will.
Good question. Next item, in City Council vote authorizing the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, to accept, and expend $5,430,000 grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mass Works Program through the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development to capitalize a revolving loan fund which will be used to support the rehabilitation of 110 Canal Street, commonly referred to as the Freudenberg Building, and subsequent developments within the Hamilton Canal District. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor of waiving the full reading signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Second reading by title. In City Council vote authorizing the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, to accept and expend $5,430,000 grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mass Works Program through the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development to capitalize a revolving loan fund which will be used to support the rehabilitation of 110 Canal Street, commonly referred to as the Freudenberg Building, and subsequent developments within the Hamilton Canal District. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. I believe a few years ago, there was a developer that was looking to purchase this building and renovate it and so forth. Is there any truth to that? Or?
This is one of the buildings. This is the phase that Trinity is currently engaged in renovating this building for a tenant. There are a couple of businesses that have spoken to the city as well as Trinity regarding that space, and there are several still interested, but nothing's been formalized on that.
I understand it was a person in the environmental field that was really very interested in doing something with this building, and I don't know what happened, and if the tax credits didn't go along with the building or whatever, but that's what I've heard. So
there was a business here in the city that was interested in the building, but for a variety of reasons, they couldn't work out a deal with Trinity, which actually owns the rights to that building.
Councilor Martin.
This says it's for a revolving loan fund. Do we know if the fund gets repaid, do we get to keep the money?
Yes.
And then we can loan it out on something else?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry. I need a motion. Motion by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Counselor Caulfield?
Yes.
Counselor Dakota?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Danza?
Yes.
Counselor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Murphy?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Is Mark Patton here?
For the next one, we do have someone registered to speak. Mr. Goldman is here, registered to speak. In City Council vote authorizing the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, to accept, and expend funds for 2 grants up to a total of $23 million to support the design and construction of significant infrastructure improvements to support the Hamilton Canal District and Downtown Lowell Transportation Evolution Program. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Dakota, seconded by Councilor Mercia. All those in favor of waiving the full reading signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Second reading by title in City Council vote authorizing the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, to accept, and expend funds from 2 grants up to a total of $23 million to support the design and construction of significant infrastructure improvements to support the Hamilton Canal District and Downtown Lowell Transportation Evolution Program. Mark Goldman, you did register to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I will be extremely brief. Mayor Milanazzo, members of the council, Mr. Manager Lynch, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. We should be recording in favor of this. As the other project that you just voted on, this fits in with the Hamilton Canal District Master Plan. This also fits in with the MEPA environmental plan that was done before the master plan. It also helps with the JAM plan, the Urban Renewal Plan that was done back in 2004, 2005. Also Jeff Speck's Downtown Evolution Plan. And it deals with the transportation with the trolley, the extension of the trolley system in the city, as well as bike paths. These 2 grants will be excellent grants for the city, and it fits in with with all the plans that I just mentioned and with the overall development of that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Motion to approve by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Dakota.
Could I?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor
this
Martin.
may be off topic if I'm ruled out of order, fine, but this talks about improvements to the Lord Overpass, and for the first time in my life, I'm finding myself avoiding Central Street to use the Lord Overpass. Is there any idea where we are on Central Street, or is there a
I'll allow it, Councilor Martin. Mr. Manager.
The project there is moving along. We actually believe that the construction work taking place there will be done within the next 30 days, I would say, to get us through the winter. We're removing the cobblestones, we're paving it. We'll then be going back in and doing additional work, possibly later this year, but more likely next spring, where we'll be installing the granite crosswalks. So the crosswalks that people will see now will just be painted, but it will be buttoned up certainly for the winter. And as I said, the DPW is actually doing that work for us. This is probably the largest single project that our Public Works Department has undertaken in quite a long time. And they're doing quite well with it. They're saving us a considerable sum of money from the bids that we had received to do that work. And as I said, it should be completed within a short period of time.
Does that include the bridge too?
Oh, no, the bridge is an L. We're just doing the cobblestones. Bridge is an L, and I believe that work, Adam may know that, 4 months to do that work. So that's going to be longer.
Through the winter then?
Yes.
Okay.
Any further questions? Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Donka?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Thank you. The next item in City Council vote authorizing the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, to accept and expend a $4,500,000 grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mass Works Program to the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development to support the construction of public infrastructure for the remaining phases of the River's Edge on the Concord development. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Dakota. All those in favor of waiving the full reading signify by saying aye. Opposed to the vote. Second reading by title in City Council vote authorizing the Division of Planning and Development to apply for, to accept and expend a $4.5 million grant for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mass Works Program to the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development to support the construction of the public infrastructure for the remaining phases of River's Edge on the Concord development. Council Martin.
Just one, I think the draft of this vote in our packet, it said $4.5 million at the top and $3 million at
Right,
the bottom.
we corrected that.
There was a
Yeah,
corrected
yeah,
one on our
yeah.
desk, so we're
did.
voting the $4.5 million.
Correct, it's $4.5 million. Thank you. Motion to approve by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Murphy. Just so my colleagues know, I'm going to vote present because the LDFC is the financing, working with a consortium of banks, and as you know, I serve as president of the LDFC, and I also work for one of the participating lenders. But with that said, roll call.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Danza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Brett?
Present, excuse me, you're right.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 present. No problem.
Thank you. We have a communication for the appointments of 5 individuals to the Lowell Council on Aging. Pursuant to the Code of the City of Lowell, Section 9-12, Section 9-14, it is a pleasure that I'm reappointing the following persons to membership of the Lowell Council on Aging: Vincenzo Milanazzo, John Lawler, Sidney Lang, and Sue Ellen O'Neill. Confirmation by the City Council is required for those reappointments and is hereby requested. Motion to accept the communication and place on file by Councilman Danza, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And on the appointments, I need a motion by Councilor Mercier, seconded by Councilor Dakota, to accept the appointments as proposed, and I need a roll call. Council Martin?
So
okay.
I'll make the motion. That's all right.
Okay. I thought Council Mercier, but Council Martin, seconded by Council Dakota, to accept the following persons to membership. Roll call.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Dakota?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Councilor Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Danza?
Yes.
Councilor Mercier?
Yes.
Mayor Milanazzo?
Yes.
Councilor Murphy?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Moving on, subcommittee reports. We have report of the Public Safety Subcommittee. Councilor Caulfield?
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Public Safety Subcommittee, I believe we met last Thursday at 5 p.m. and the meeting didn't adjourn till 7. So it was a lengthy meeting, and it was a good meeting. And those in attendance was my colleagues on the subcommittee, Councilor Rodney Elliott, Councilor Frankie Dakota, Mayor Jim Milanazzo, Councilor Patrick Murphy. Also in attendance was Superintendent of Lowell Police Department, Ken LaValle, Manager Bernie Lynch, Henry Marshan, Assistant to the Manager, Solicitor Christine O'Connor, Elliot Falaluso, I hope I pronounced that okay. Members of the License Commission was Walter Bayless. There were business owners, citizens, and residents of downtown also. Representing UMass Lowell was Paul Marion. And the subcommittee, we heard from the various business owners, and we heard from Walter Bayless as well, Chief LaValle, Kathy Massin, President of the Downtown Neighborhood Association, Greg Hamburger from Market Street, Mark Giroma from the Dubliner. And the issue before us is the pubs and taverns in suburbia close at 1. Lowell closes at 2 a.m. And the indications are that people come into Lowell to get that last drink, maybe 3 or 4 drinks. And there was one establishment, Hookside Kelly's. I closed my doors at 12:45. That's wonderful. Nobody gets in that establishment after 12:45. But there were other establishments that say, "Whoa, we let them in at 1:45." That's the problem. And Chief LaValle is going to look at ways and means of addressing the issue. A motion by Councilor Elliott to have the law department come up with a legal opinion from the solicitor. Also, a motion was filed by Councilor Elliott, and it was unanimously adopted. Councilor Elliott have Chief Lavalley come back with a recommendation on how to address this problem and a report on that issue. So that's the gist of the meeting. It was well attended, and many, not every tavern or bar owner was there, but there were certainly people there that owned the taverns and pubs that have been outstanding business owners, outstanding citizens who have scholarship programs and so forth. But the main issue is overserving and an influx of people from suburbia. And we were all here back in March or April, Mr. Mayor, when we had the Lowell delegation present. We had District Attorney Leone. We had the Secretary of Public Safety from Governor Patrick's office. And we also had a colonel from the state police. And the colonel told the council and everyone viewing that meeting, the most successful sobriety test in the state of Massachusetts is on Thorndike Street in Lowell. They get more drunken drivers going back to suburbia, getting onto the connector, or wherever they're going. And that's an issue. So I think it has to be looked at. Hopefully, the pubs and tavern owners can get together and say, we're closing our doors at 12:45. And everyone's on a clean playing field that way. But if one of them says, no, I'm not, then you're not going to accomplish anything. So we're waiting for a report from Chief Lavalley, and once we get the report, the council can recommend to the License Commission. They can't tell the License Commission what to do, but if we come in with a recommendation, hopefully all sides will come together and we'll come up with something that's good. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield. Anyone else on the report? It was a very good meeting. Motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Mercia to accept the report as a report of progress. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. We have a report of the Finance Subcommittee, which met this evening. Councilor Elliott.
I will be brief. The Finance Subcommittee met on 3 issues that were referred to it. One is, one of the items was the accumulated sick and vacation leave. The manager provided the auditor provided an updated report on the liability that the city has for both unused and sick time, which is 6.7 million. 2.7 million of that is for the school department. But the manager is going to come back within 60 to 90 days with a report on, there was a discussion on certain options, certain ways to go about trying to eliminate it essentially, or trying to reduce it anyway. So he's going to report back to us on those options. So how, including putting a freeze on new employees that come in and to try to stem those costs. The second item of discussion was the Arch Street or the police garage. It was referred probably a couple of months ago anyway, on the costs associated with it. Manager indicated that the building is primarily complete. There's still some work that has to be done, including regrading, paving, and installation of a lift or an elevator to access the basement of that building. Most of as well as some electricity that has to be done. So that was just a report of progress. Third item was that was referred to the Finance Subcommittee was a loan order for water infrastructure improvements of $26.7 million. The manager and Mr. Laif, the director of the water treatment plant, came back with an alternative plan that was presented at that Finance Subcommittee meeting. I'm just looking for the revised loan order. I believe it was $10.4 million. 10.45 million. But a presentation was given by the consultants, as well as 10.45 million. On the reduced loan order, a number of items are not going to be done as a part of that, the initial proposal. I don't know if we want to, I don't think we have to go through the entire proposal because it'll be sent to a public hearing at a particular date. It was just
September 27th, Counselor.
I'm sorry?
September 27th.
September 22nd. So the original order of 26 million was reduced to 10.45 million. There was a request, although it wasn't a motion, I think by Councilor Caulfield and/or Mercier, and I think it'd be helpful for all of the members of the council, just on the debt service, what will be reduced and the impact, or when a potential rate impact. I think you mentioned 5 years out, Mr. Moses, so I think that information will be helpful when this does come to a public hearing. That is a report of progress on these 3 items, and that's it.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Councilor Mendonça?
Just, if we need a vote to send it to a public hearing, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Elliott, to refer the loan order to a public hearing for September 27th. Roll call. I'm sorry, Councilor Mendonça.
Just quickly, I mean, one of the reasons I'm pleased with the revised loan order now is that it would not require any rate increases, that the debt service for what's being done could be handled in the current budget as other debt is retired. So that's why I'm pleased to move it forward. We can continue, hopefully, to have some capital improvements, but we'll hear from everyone at the public hearing.
Great, thank you. All those in favor of sending it to a public hearing signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Motion to accept the report of the Finance Subcommittee is a report of progress by Councilor Murphy, seconded by Councilor Mercier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Next item, wire inspector reports, National Grid, Verizon, New England Telephone to install 20 feet of underground conduit from pole 2 to property line. I believe this is just motion to accept and adopt by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Caulfield.
Adopt the accompanying order.
Right, adopt the accompanying order. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Mercier.
Thank you. If I could just give a report as well, a very brief report. It's not a subcommittee meeting, but more or less it was the Cemetery Commission met last Thursday.
Motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Mendonça, seconded by Councilor Elliott, to suspend the rules for the purpose of getting a report on the Cemetery Commission.
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, last Thursday, September 8th, the Cemetery Commission met at the Senior Center at 6 o'clock to allow the public a chance to be heard on the rules pertaining to the gravestones. The city manager was there, and I want to say publicly, Mr. Manager, you did not have to be there, and yet you were. So I appreciate that very much, because you kind of gave support to me with the issues at hand and the people that spoke very passionately. It was a very sensitive issue, and so I needed some moral support. Jerry Laggy, the chairperson of the Cemetery Commission, was there, as well as John Bond, Bernie Cassidy, and Dennis Mercier. So they did listen to everybody. We were there for about 2.5 hours. Everybody got out what they had to say. And the Cemetery Commission will meet as a body, as a whole, to discuss the rules and go over it. And they will come back in sometime in October to tell us if they revised those rules or not. So that was a very good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to accept the report is a report of progress by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Dakota. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote. Next item under general petitions, we have a miscellaneous petition by Christopher Smith on behalf of the Shed Park Baseball Organization, requesting that the city of Lowell name a street Peter Rogers Way, located between Shed Park and the Lowell Cemetery, and to dedicate an engraved stone. Motion to refer to the city manager for a report and recommendation by Councilor Martin, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had heard from a few people on this petition, wanted to do something suitable for Mr. Rogers, who I guess although I knew him, I didn't know that he had been such a significant contributor to particularly girls softball at Shed Park. And the fields there are named for people already, the upper fields, and they thought maybe a roadway, there's no houses that would be affected by a change in name, and with a suitable entryway, kind of a stone memorial might be appropriate. I did have some discussion with Commissioner Bellegarde about it, even though it's not really parks, but some of it might be on park property. So somebody who gave a lot of good years of very good service to the league, and they want to recognize that contribution.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. We have, under claims, we have 1 personal injury claim and 5 property damage claims. Motion by Councilor Mendonça, second by Councilor Broderick, to refer to the Law Department. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed to vote. Moving on to the motion section.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Caulfield.
If I may, I don't know how well this will go with my colleagues, but I'd like to make a motion to accept and adopt the 9 motions presented to us this evening.
Second. Motion to accept and adopt the 9 motions. Are there still 9?
No, there's
We have
8.
Is there 9?
There's 8.
No,
Well, there's,
right,
I withdrew
Councilor Mercier,
one.
yeah, removed number 27.
Yep.
So based on that withdrawal, we have 1, 2, 3,
So,
4,
8.
5, 6, 7, 8. So we now
8.
have 8 motions.
Well,
Councilor Elliott.
I support that. I did want to speak on one of my motions, though, just very briefly, and get some feedback, because I think it has some time sensitivity to it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. Is that the one, adult homeless?
The one with the proposed adult center for...
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a report on that, Mr. Manager?
I have some information.
Okay.
I don't have an abundance of information.
I think that would be helpful.
The only information I have is that St. Anne's there's no deal in place. St. Anne's hasn't even really taken it up yet. But we're watching it very carefully to see what is happening there.
Is there any approvals, any permission, any permits needed from the city?
We do not believe so, but again, there hasn't been any formal proposal, so we don't, or formal plans or discussion submitted, so we don't know.
Okay.
But we are watching it very carefully.
Thank you. That's all I need to know,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Before we vote, we also have a gentleman registered to speak on Councilor Elliott's motion regarding recycling location for downtown residents. Craig Himmelberger? Are you all set? Okay, thank you. Okay, motion to accept the 8 motions as presented. We already have that on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, it's a vote.
Can I just ask a question? Mr. Manager, you meet tomorrow with the department heads, right? Somebody meets somewhere.
There's all sorts of meetings happening, yes.
Someone will get the message of this motion. So instead of saying it, I'm going to give it to you because I want to know the answers to all of this, okay? Thank you.
Okay. And if I could just, by way of an announcement, the Red Sox won 18-6 tonight, and Tim Wakefield got his 200th win. Not that I wasn't paying attention up here.
Was 18-6?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Motion adjourned by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Martin. All those in favor signify by saying
quickest.
aye. Opposed, to the vote.
What is that? What is that?